The entire village contained close to 10,000 villagers. This included the young and elderly, and each and every one looked on with a grim and ghastly expression. Many of the little children were each hugging onto a skull. Some were human skulls while others belonged to beasts. They're trespassers from the dragon sect. Kill them, an inborn expert of the remains shouted after being struck heavily by the Dragonians. In reaction to the harsh attack, he resorted to the stance of golden cicada sheds its shell in order to make his escape, leaving behind a sheet of human skin. At the sight of this gory remains base, Wang Xian's body began to light up in flames. Those from the remains shouldn't be left to exist. With a change of stance, Wang Xian soared and ascended into the skies as he ejected a dragon ball from his mouth. Roar! With his dragon roar, the Inferno Divine Dragon was summoned from the Dragon Ball and was at Wang Xian's disposal before it dived into the skies and lashed the cadaveric crows. The level 11 Dragon Ball was already capable of unleashing powers equivalent to those of a Dan Realm expert. With one sweep of the dragon tail, the Inferno Divine Dragon wiped out hundreds of cadaveric crows using its flames and terrifying prowess. Ring, ring, ring. Kill that fellow in the sky. A screeching voice could be heard. It came from a chubby old lady who shouted while holding a human bone staff in her hand. At the same time, with a ring of bells on her other hand, she summoned 4 other members from the remains who proceeded to charge at Wang Xian. Amongst the quartet were 2 beasts, one of which was a giant bear and the other a goshawk, while the remaining 2 were elders. Together, these 4 inborn experts from the remains emerged with an overwhelming bloodthirst and savageness. Wang Xian looked across and saw close to 10,000 disciples of the remains standing in front of the village. A little more than 50 from the remains dashed ahead for Wang Xian and gang. They included more than a dozen who were charging straight for Wang Xian. Their bodies were 7 to 8 times stronger than their counterparts of equivalent grades. Their highly resistant bodies alone were enough to instill fear in an inborn expert, even if they should possess no other unique combat techniques. Similar to zombies, they feared neither pain nor death. No doubt the 4 main devil sects. Within the remains alone are more than 30 inborn experts. Along with the bone puppets that they produce, that'll peak at close to 80. Wang Xian extended his arms at the sight of the remains members who were charging in his direction. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, the fire surrounding Wang Xian began to burst into wider flames, as little specks of fire appeared in void air. Dan Realm experts, hollered a chubby elderly lady who stood amidst the remains disciples. 1 Dan Realm expert, and 27 inborn experts. She continued in grimace. The dragon sect, huh? Good. Today, you all shall remain here, said the chubby granny. Thereafter, she threw the human bone staff in her hand over to the middle of the village, aiming straight into the building which resembled a ritual hall. May I call upon Lord Ossian to slay these tough opponents? The battle between good and evil has yet to begin. To think, someone has already barged into the grounds of ours? The grounds of the remains, a calm and leveled voice questioned. Lord Ossian, all disciples of the remains greeted immediately, as they knelt in the direction of the ritual hall. Lord Ossian? Wang Xian asked with a raised brow. Following the greeting, the surrounding mid-air flames grew stronger before the specks coagulated into a collective flaming rope. With much ease, the flaming rope tied the respective inborn experts from the remains together. Bam! With a swing of his arm, Wang Xian dumped the remains over to the center of the village. Dragon King of the Dragon Sect. I know you. A bone tentacle shot out from within the ritual hall before it swung at the various remains. A freak who's neither human nor spirit. Wang Xian gasped with a squinted look as he stared ahead. With an indifferent expression, he could see a tentacle which stretched more than a dozen meters in length, and a skeleton which reached up to 10 meters. It resembled a snake's body and had a head attached to its rear. It was the head of an elder. Gradually, another snake-like tentacle extended itself slowly into the open. As with the previous, this skeletal tentacle also had a head at its tail. Yet, this was not the end, as more and more skeletal tentacles began to emerge. Finally, a youth appeared. He had exceptional visuals, although he was without legs. On his lower body, 10 snake-like tentacles supported his weight, where each of the 10 measured more than a dozen meters long. Chapter 5:16, Annihilating Lord Ossian. Gia. Ling ling ling. When the terrifying Lord Ossian appeared, the cadaveric crows in the sky avoided the attacks of the Inferno Divine Dragon and the Nether Skull as they gathered above Lord Ossian rapidly. The bone puppets were summoned towards him and stood before the disciples of the remains. They were all staring at Wang Xian with bloodlust. Dragon King of Dragon Sect, I don't remember our remains having any feud with your dragon sect. You should be going after Donghua Sacred Sect instead of coming to the base of our remains. The young man looked at Wang Xian with a warming smile. His 10 other tentacles that were over 10 meters long supported him. There are many people who have no feud with the remains and yet you killed them all. I don't need to have a feud with you to kill you. The Inferno Divine Dragon came back to Wang Xian and circled around him. The Nether Skull shrank back to the size of a human head and hovered on Wang Xian's shoulder. How dare you barge in the land of our remains? You are indeed as described in the information we have gathered. Arrogant and conceited. The smile on the young man disappeared. He lifted his head slightly and continued, in that case, you guys can forget about leaving. The body of a Dan Realm expert could very well be used to forge my 11th tailbone. He laughed out loud and waved his 10 other tailbones. On them, the human heads were wretched. 10 pairs of eyes stared at Wang Xian. They were cold and gave Wang Xian goosebumps. I'll kill the Dragon King. As for the rest, I'm leaving them to you guys. The young man turned to Wang Xian and revealed a faint smile. Hee hee. While he was smiling, 10 creepy voices came from the 10 human heads on his 10 tailbones. Your path to the remains is a one-way trip. Once you are here, you won't be leaving. The young man opened up his arms and shut his eyes slightly. A blood-red bell appeared in his hands. Oh, remains that have been in a slumber. It's time for you to rise. Ling ling. Ling ling. 2 clear rings sounded from the blood-red bell. Ka 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 ka. All of a sudden, a bone claw emerged from the ground. Following which, black skeletons crawled out from the ground. There were countless skeletons. It was as though the entire ground had awakened as thousands and thousands of skeletons crawled out. Gga. Cadaveric crows cried as they circled in the air. Their bodies had shielded the moonlight from the bright moon, causing the entire region to resemble a terrifying death region. This was once a major graveyard where over 300,000 elite soldiers died. Now that it's awakening, the future underworld will also be the remains underworld, the young man mumbled to himself. Suddenly, he shouted coldly, Kill! Kill! The expressions on the faces of the group of disciples from the remains were contorted as the bell rang. They immediately charged towards Wang Xian and the group. Inborn-level disciples of the remains had ivory daggers and bone swords in their hands as they charged and attacked the 27 Dragonians. 80 to 90 inborn experts killing 20-odd inborn experts should be an effortless task. Around them, dense skeletons also charged towards the Dragonians. These skeletons were as hard as rocks and had a strength that was not weaker than a level 6 or 7 martial artist. Controlling skeletons is a little like necromancers in the Western world. The Devil Dragon cultivation arts can also control skeletons and the skeletal dragon is even better at it. If Elder Fong and Xiao Yu were here, there wouldn't be sufficient skeletons for them to crush. Thousands and thousands of skeletons rose from the ground below Wang Xian. Just killing these skeletons had fully occupied the Dragonians, let alone going against a huge group of inborn experts. The strength of the remains had completely exceeded their expectations. Devour them. Wang Xian moved his arm and black will-o-wisps were emitted from the nether skull. They grew to 2 meters and attacked the skeletons below him and the cadaveric crows. Your opponent is me. It's been a long time since I became serious. Let's see how far you can push me. The young man looked at Wang Xian as he flew into the sky directly. The 10 terrifying tailbones were swaying and the heads on them were staring creepily at him. The second strongest expert from the underworld? Hee hee. Take my first tailbone attack, the young man laughed as a tailbone swept towards Wang Xian with tremendous force. What an arrogant person. Ruthlessness flashed in the eyes of Wang Xian. Today, I'll show you my true strength too. Growling, grr. This time, Wang Xian didn't attempt to hide. Before the astonished eyes of Lord Ossian, Wang Xian turned into a 5-colored divine dragon. Wang Xian lifted his head and gave a loud roar that reverberated throughout the skies. This is... When Lord Ossian saw Wang Xian's form, his eyes couldn't help but constrict. Divine Dragon. Divine Dragon. This. Could it be there are really divine dragons? Lord Ossian looked to Wang Xian who was in the sky. A flash of surprise gleamed in his eyes, but such emotions were quickly taken over by frenzy. Regardless of whether you are a real divine dragon or other creatures, if your body can be used to forge the 11th tailbone, it will definitely be beautiful. I'm taking your body. Hee 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 hee. Lord Ossian smiled and swung a tailbone towards Wang Xian. The terrifying tailbones resembled bone chains made from metal. They were incomparably terrifying and had spikes all over them. The wind was split as the tailbones swept towards Wang Xian's head. I'll show you my strength too. Ruthlessness gleamed in the eyes of Wang Xian as he swung his dragon tail across. The dragon tail glowed in a golden light and the dragon scales stood up. The face on the approaching tailbone looked wretched. He opened his mouth, revealed his razor-sharp teeth and droplets of water oozed out from his mouth. Rumble. The dragon tail and the tailbone clashed heavily together, creating a deafening boom. Arg! A pitiful cry came from the head on the tailbone. The moment the head clashed with the dragon tail, it exploded into pieces. Cracks filled the entire tailbone and it was almost as good as useless moving ahead. What? When Lord Ossian saw the cracks on the tailbone, he was shocked and infuriated. How dare you crush one of my tailbones? You deserve death. As he spoke, his entire body moved and the 9 other tailbones started sweeping towards Wang Xian like the tentacles of an octopus. Every tailbone carried with it immense energy. As they clashed, sounds of explosions erupted and white fog was formed over the sky. Hee hee. Seeing Lord Ossian attacking towards him, Wang Xian revealed a cold smirk. The strength of Lord Ossian was indeed terrifying. Every tailbone could have the strength of a Dan realm expert. Moreover, Lord Ossian relied solely on the strength of the physical body, or simply, brute strength. Nonetheless, one shouldn't belittle brute strength. When strength reached a certain level, it would still be a terrifying thing. He actually forced our Lord Ossian to release all his strength. This brat can die now. Below them, the disciples of the remains looked in admiration towards Lord Ossian after seeing their Lord Ossian waving his terrifying tailbones. Chapter 5:17, Remains Annihilated. Every tailbone of Lord Ossian has destructive power that can bring down the world. Each of them was made from the secret art of the remains, after consuming a large number of worldly treasures. According to the elders, Lord Ossian alone could fight against 5 Dan realm experts. Lord Ossian is considered the invincible existence among Dan realm experts. That person used an unknown method to turn into a divine dragon, but he's a far cry from our Lord Ossian. In the myths, divine dragons can rise to the sky, travel in the clouds, tumble the water. Every one of them is a few hundred meters in size. From what I see, this divine dragon is practicing bloodline cultivation, which is similar to those in Europe. The group of remains disciples watched with smiles on their faces. 27 Dragonians were already fully suppressed by 80 inborn experts from the remains, and they could passively defend themselves. If it were not for the nether skull, there might have been casualties. It would not be long before they were killed. The dragon sect is simply providing materials. 27 inborn experts will make powerful bone puppets. After Lord Ossian makes his tail bone from this divine dragon, his strength will be enhanced greatly again. Then, Emperor Qi might not be his match. With so many materials before our war, our strength will be greatly enhanced. A group of Remain's disciples revealed malevolent smiles as they watched the battle. Both the elderly and young were exhibiting bloodthirsty looks on their faces. Ha! Seeing the tail bone sweeping at him, Wang Xian displayed a contemptuous look. When the tail bone was 100 meters away from him, Wang Xian shook his body. Humph! He let out a soft snort. With a jerk, solid mustard shields appeared around Wang Xian. His body was giving off a bright yellow glow. Every single dragon scale on him looked extremely solid. Boom boom. 9 tail bones slammed onto the mustard shields surrounding Wang Xian, causing all the shields to vibrate. Yet, there was no trace of cracks on them at all. Is this all you've got? Didn't you want me to try to see how many tail bones I could block? Wang Xian craned up his dragon head with disdainful eyes, staring at Lord Ossian, who was in shock. No, this can't be it. Damn it, it should crack. Disbelief took over the expression on Lord Ossian's face with 5 tail bones straightened up. Poof! A bone-piercing sound was heard when sharp bones went through the top part of the tailbone. 5 tail bones spun with violent movement as they drilled into the earth shields. Bam, bam, bam. A hair-raising sound came from the sky, where 5 tail bones could only drill half a meter into the shield with their full forces. In the face of the few meters thick shields, it was to no avail. In particular, Lord Ossian's heart was slamming against his rib cage when he saw the taunting look on Wang Xian. It's my turn. With a contemptuous look in Wang Xian's eyes, thick thistles and thorns suddenly grew out from the shields. The strips of thistles and thorns went straight to the 5 tail bones and clung to them. What? What kind of attack is this? Upon seeing the thistles and thorns winding up at the tail bone, there was a drastic change in Lord Ossian's expression. From the flame just now, to the earth shield and thistles and thorns, he did not understand how he managed to have so many attacking means. The so-called Lord Ossian is a piece of trash in my eyes. Let me try to see how many tail bones I can withstand. Hee hee, what irony. Wang Xian slowly reached out his dragon claws. From the earth shields, a strip of thistles and thorns came under his claws. Wang Xian grabbed it and said, "Let me see if you can survive for 10 seconds under my attack." As he spoke, he made a move and struck at Lord Ossian. With an appalling look, 5 of Lord Ossian's tail bones were trembling. To his horror, the power that he was proud of could not even shake off Wang Xian's shackles. A Dan realm expert couldn't be that strong. Lord Ossian appeared a little like a stone as he quickly exclaimed, "You're a budding realm expert." A budding realm. Coldness spread on Wang Xian's face as he raked his dragon claws at him. No, I'm the leader of the remains. I'm immortal. There was a huge change in the expression of Lord Ossian, and the easiness and calmness from earlier on went missing. He malevolently controlled the remaining 5 tail bones and hurled them at Wang Xian. With a swing, the thistles and thorns in Wang Xian's hand were growing at a frenzied speed. Strips of thistles and thorns instantly grew to over 10 meters long. Dozens of thistles and thorns knocked themselves against 5 tail bones. Bam, bam, bam. Some of them broke away, but there were more that wrapped themselves onto the tail bones. Do you still have other means of attack? Wang Xian stared at Lord Ossian with sarcasm as he grabbed Lord Ossian's body with the dragon claws that were emitting golden radiance. No, no. Lord Ossian was appalled and despaired. The dragon claw of Wang Xian reached Lord Ossian and gripped his body. An ant that I can crush any time. Wang Xian clenched his dragon claw, and a bone-cracking sound could be heard. The energy of the gold summit on the dragon claws were crushing everything in his body. No. A desperate voice resonated through the place of the remains. No, how can our Lord Ossian be killed? This is impossible. I don't believe it. This is not true. At this moment, the group of disciples of the remains who were waiting for their Lord Ossian to display his mightiness were staring with disbelieving eyes. What they had witnessed was the easy defeat of Lord Ossian. It was all too easy. The other party did not even exert much strength, and he could slay their invincible Lord Ossian. All their beliefs were toppled instantly. This was totally different from what they had anticipated. Today, I'll annihilate the remains. Wang Xian swept his cold gaze at all the remains disciples below him. He opened his mouth and spewed out a ball of daunting flames. Flames fell on them like magma washing down from the sky. Run for your life. Frightening screams came from below as the remains disciples let out their desperate growls with terrified faces. They fled in panic, but the flames in the sky pouring down seemed to be endless. This was the true blue destructive power that could wipe out heaven and earth. Wang Xian stood in the sky, 100 meters above the ground, while all the remains disciples were shrouded by the flame wherever it passed. Those who were not even inborn yet perished in the fire. Wang Xian was merciless, as he would not let them off because of how they worked and how cruel they were. Oh no, Lord Ossian is dead. He's been killed. Flee for your life. The inborn experts from the remains who were besieging the Dragonians sensed the formidable strength from behind. All of them were horrified. With terror, they gave up on the siege of the Dragonians and fled desperately away. Do you think you can escape? However, it was impossible for inborn experts to get away from a budding realm expert, not to mention Wang Xian, who was close to the immortal realm. Roar! After a bellow, a ball of flames landed on the last inborn expert of the remains who was enveloped by the daunting flame even before he could display his golden cicada sheds its shell. After that, the remains were annihilated. No one had expected the remains, one of the 4 main devil sects, to be annihilated within a night. Chapter 518, The Treasures of Remains. Crack, crack, crack. The bright moon illuminated the earth and explosions erupted from various corners of the creepy region. From time to time, one could even hear the sharp cries of the cadaveric crows. A huge, 2-meter skull was constantly devouring skeletons and cadaveric crows. As a stream of will-o-wisps swept across, huge flocks of cadaveric crows and skeletons fell to the ground. The entire region was exceptionally terrifying. Wang Xian waved his arm and a stream of fire dragon energy shrouded over. Several skeletons fell and the will-o-wisps from them entered into the nether skull. Wang Xian could feel the nether skull getting exhilarated as it absorbed the surrounding will-o-wisps with greed. Dragon King, the remains are really strong. The bone puppets they have created could also match us in defense and strength. Mo Yuan led the Dragonians to clean up the battlefield before returning to Wang Xian's side and commenting solemnly. The disciples of the remains together with the bone puppets they had forged gave a total of roughly 70 to 80 inborn experts. On top of that, Lord Ossian could even match 4 to 5 Dan realm experts. Overall, they were incredibly tough. At the very least, if Donghua Sacred Sect didn't have Nie Wushuang, the remains might have chosen to target Donghua Sacred Sect by now and could even have defeated them. It would take roughly 3 ordinary sacred sects to stand up against it. There were 4 main devil sects within Diabolism and Remains was just one of them. The strongest of them all was the Devil Corpse Palace. Emperor Qi was the palace master of Devil Corpse Palace and the strongest existence within Diabolism. Other than the 4 main devil sects, there were also other devil sections. Spirit's Land, Cursed Venom and Crimson Bug were examples of other devil sects below the 4 main devil sections. There were also Dan realm experts within the 4 main devil sections. It was just that they weren't as insane and powerful as Lord Ossian of the Remains. On the surface, diabolism and the orthodox sects had equivalent strength. As to whether the alliance of orthodox sects could eliminate diabolism, the crux was still the battle between Nie Wuxiang and Emperor Qi. These bone-made weapons have been refined and can't undergo further processing. What a shame. Wang Xian looked across the ivory daggers, bone swords and other weapons used by the Remains. They were all level 9 weapons. These bone-made weapons were clearly forged through unique refining methods by the Remains. Their limits had been reached and could no longer be improved. Wang Xian appeared beside the body of Lord Ossian, glanced at his tailbones and shook his head slightly. Go search for the treasures within the Remains and bring all of them here. Wang Xian instructed Mo Yuan and the Dragonians while he remained to control the nether skull absorbing the will-o-wisps. The nether skull was a rather mystical spiritual weapon. Now that Wang Xian had mastered the arts of forging spiritual equipment, he still couldn't decipher how it was created. Vaguely, he felt this involved spirit arrays. From the staff of Ajaya, Wang Xian could also feel the presence of spirit arrays. The nether skull constantly absorbed the will-o-wisps from the bones around him. The will-o-wisps from the bodies of the experts from the Remains were being sucked dry. In the end, the nether skull came before the corpse of Lord Ossian. Its teeth were chattering and it seemed to be exceptionally excited. Dense and terrifying vibes came from the nether skull as it landed on the tailbones of Lord Ossian. The tailbones were cracking and streams of dense will-o-wisps entered into the nether skull. Bzz. The nether skull started to expand to 2 meters once again. However, 2 meters wasn't its limit as it continued to grow at an astonishing pace. In the hands of the deity lady from Nether Flame, the limit of the nether skull was 3 meters. At this point, the nether skull had also grown to 3 meters. When it reached 3 meters, the nether skull had only absorbed the third tailbone. There were another 7 to go. Streams of dense will-o-wisps gushed into the nether skull. As the last tailbone was turned to ashes, the entire nether skull had grown to over 5 meters. The 5-meter skull hovered in the air. At its eyes, eerie will-o-wisps were burning and one could feel a creepy and evil aura coming from it. Wang Xian waved his arm and the nether skull returned to his hands, reverting to the size of a fist in the process. The effects of the nether skull were a little like the Dragon Ball. They could both be released to attack. However, the Dragon Ball was much easier to control as compared to the nether skull. If the Dragon Ball reached level 12, he would have little use for the nether skull. Even so, it was still a little weak. Dragon King, we have located where the Remains kept their treasures. At this moment, Wang Xian heard Mo Yuan. Wang Xian moved and instantly arrived in the middle of the platform used for sacrificial rituals. Within the structure, will-o-wisps were burning. There was also a huge 5-meter skull without any flesh and blood that was being enshrined. The treasure cove was located at the lowest level. Wang Xian jumped in and saw Mo Yuan and the Dragonians looking at the items before them. Dragon King, this should be the most important treasure cove of the Remains. The area was dark with small will-o-wisps hovering, illuminating the area. The underground area wasn't big and spanned only 1,000 square meters or so. There were several racks with skeletons hung on them. These skeletons were also glowing with a dull shade. Wang Xian looked across and realized these were the bones of experts. They were useless to him. Huh? This is... Wang Xian walked to the left and saw pieces of black metal being placed on the rack neatly. Devil Shadow Steel, Level 10. Devil Metal Steel. Inborn level materials. Excitement beamed in Wang Xian's eyes. There were over 100 pieces of devil steel and each was the size of a human head. Devil attribute inborn level materials. I can use them to forge equipment. Wang Xian continued moving deeper and saw masks made of human skin hung on the walls. These masks could totally change one's appearance. In the middle, there was a blood-red mask emitting a devilish vibe. Devil Shadow Mask, Level 10. Devil Shadow Mask? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. He removed it and put it over his face. Instantly, energy welled up and a shadow of him appeared beside him. The shadow looked a little illusory. If he could catch his opponent by surprise, the effects would be tremendous. What an interesting mask. Devil Shadow Mask? Is this made from the devil metal steel? Wang Xian pondered as he continued looking around. Tenacious Devil Stone, Level 10. More inborn level materials. Looking ahead, a pile of stones that were glowing dimly appeared before his sight. There were over 50 pieces and Wang Xian was elated. Walking to the middle, Wang Xian found several thick books. On them, the word remains was written in an ancient-looking font. This is the art of creating bone puppets. Wang Xian stared fervently at a book before flipping it open. Bones have spirituality. Refining them with special materials can forge powerful and terrifying bone puppets. The method of forging bone puppets was recorded within. Besides that, the extraction technique of the human mask was also recorded, including the ability to shed one's skin to escape. Wang Xian took a look and shook his head. The crafting of bone puppets was too brutal. One had to use the bones of living creatures that had just passed away or the bones of a living human. Chapter 519, The World is Shocked, 1. Wang Xian burned all their books away since the remains art of cultivation was nothing useful. He looked around, noticing only bones occupying most of the areas. Other than that, it was the raw material for refining the bone puppets. The only relatively high-value stuff was probably a devil spiritual bead, a level 11 devil spiritual bead. However, the devil spiritual bead was useless to him, except for making weapons or giving it to Mo Qinglong. Take all the material with us and go. Wang Xian ordered the Dragonians. Yes, Dragon King. Mo Yuan beckoned to some Dragonians, wrapping all the inborn materials up. Dragon King, we found some vital information. Just as they came to the ground, Wang Xian saw Long Qi, and the rest walked out from a room by the side with thrilled faces. What is it? Seeing their excited expressions, Wang Xian asked this with his curiosity piqued. It's about Omniscient Group. Unexpectedly, Omniscient Group was actually established by the remains. They infiltrated the underworld with painted skins and human masks with 50 years of development. Shenling Information Technology was their base camp. I even have a piece of information regarding the top management of Omniscient Group. The top management was all die-hard subordinates groomed by the remains. They are not cultivators but completely ordinary people. If we could control the top management, we could control the entire Omniscient Group. Long Qi was elated as he continued to Wang Xian. All the people in the underworld would not have expected that Omniscient Group is controlled by a group of ordinary people. Hence, things turned out to be this way. Besides, they have access to a team of powerful computer masters who can do surveillance on any places. In addition, there are satellites. As long as the signal is clear, we can see anywhere we want. Is that so? A trace of surprise flashed in Wang Xian's eyes. So, if we control the top management, we can control Omniscient Group? Yes, the internal department of Omniscient Group has very tight control. Not even the middle-level staff know the location of the base of Omniscient Group. They will deliver the message through internal channels, reporting up level by level. As such, once we have access to higher management, it will be as good as controlling the entire Omniscient Group. Long Qi nodded his head with force. Mo Yuan, you'll try to gain control of Omniscient Group with Long Qi and the rest. I hope you guys succeed. Wang Xian gave commands to Mo Yuan immediately. Yes, Dragon King. As long as we can find the people, we'll be able to seize control. Sure, I'll wait for your good news. Wang Xian smiled as he walked outside. When he stepped out of the remains land, he spun around and swept a look at the creepy and daunting forest. Wang Xian made a swift move and hovered to the sky. With a dragon ball in his mouth, Wang Xian opened his mouth and spat below. Columns of flames fell, encompassing an area spanning a dozen meters in an instant. Wang Xian, again, spewed flames in the other direction. Within a minute, the entire remains land was shrouded in intense heat as the flames rose and spread out to the surroundings. With swift action, Wang Xian came to the border of the land and set up a barrier. That meant that the flame would automatically extinguish itself once the entire remains land was totally burned down to ashes. The entire region spanned over a radius of about 20 kilometers. The black woods in this forest carried traces of toxins, so he wanted to get rid of this entire place. When the fire rose, Wang Xian headed towards Ling City with a beaming face. The blazing fire behind him was burning even more fiercely than before as it lit up the entire sky. Ling City was a city that never slept. The nightlife over there could be comparable to those first-tier cities. As a city with a high crime rate, many people were wandering outside at night. When Wang Xian arrived at Ling City half an hour later, those wandering night owls suddenly realized the sky was much brighter. What's going on? Why is the sky lit up? A few young people outside looked up curiously as they noticed the sky was brighter than before. That is the direction of the Fateless Forest. It's the Fateless Forest. There is a fire over there now. Why is that forest on fire? The Fateless Forest is quite damp. What a blazing flame. The brightness is taking over the sky. I guess the range of land on fire should spread over 10 kilometers. Everyone was shocked, including one of the martial artists who was looking towards the direction of the Fateless Forest with questions on his face. What's going on? Why is there such a huge fire? The base camp of the remains is in the Fateless Forest, but why would there be fire? Some martial artists cast their gazes over with suspicious looks. The Fateless Forest covered hundreds of kilometers. Still, the region that was on fire was at least 10 to 20 kilometers. Such a large surface area of fire had erupted, and people of the remains would not have missed out. If they found out, why would they let the fire burn by itself? Could something have happened to the remains over there? Some of the martial artists pondered. Master, the Fateless Forest is on huge fire. It's odd. Back on a rooftop of one of the 5-star hotels in Ling City, dozens of middle-aged and old men were standing around as they gazed in the direction of the Fateless Forest with quizzical expressions. It is indeed strange. Someone from the underworld mentioned that the Dragon King, along with some of the disciples of Dragon's sect, entered the Fateless Forest. Now that the forest is on fire, could this have to do with the Dragon King and the rest? The old man in the center revealed a pondering look. The Spiritual Wind sect, a first-class force, was just passing by this area after the alliance of the orthodox sects had ended during the day. Since it was too late to leave, they decided to stay put at Ling City for a night. There is absolutely no reason for such a great fire to break out in the Fateless Forest. A middle-aged man frowned. Could it be the Dragon sect and the remains developed some conflicts? Or it's more than meets the eye, an old man murmured. Why don't we go and check it out? Given our speed, not even the inborn experts of the remains could catch up to us, said an old man from Spiritual Wind sect suddenly. Spiritual Wind sect's cultivation was wind-attributed. Hence, their forte was in their speed. Compared with the people in the underworld, the speed of the experts in the ancestral sects of Spiritual Wind sect could be ranked within the top 3. Great, let's go and check it out. Several elders hesitated before they nodded. You guys wait over here. We will be right back. For inborn experts of Spiritual Wind sect swept up swift movements just like a blast of wind as they flitted towards the Fateless Forest. Their speed surpassed all their peer inborn experts. To an inborn expert, one could take less than 20 minutes to travel dozens of kilometers. But the 4 inborn experts of Spiritual Wind sect were much faster. In less than 10 minutes, the quartet came to the edge of the fire. They flapped their phoenix wings at their backs as they flew ahead. The soil over here is different from other places. Even the trees too. This should be the territory of remains. They noticed that the region where the fire was burning was different from its surroundings. After some exchanges of gazes, there were traces of horror hidden in their eyes. With some hesitation, they continued to hover towards the center. That is... Gosh! This was supposed to be the site of the remains. Why has it turned to some ruins now? Could it be? An unbelievable idea began to form in their heads as they stared blankly below at the ground covered with daunting bones. Stone houses were radiating the fiery red glow of flames, and charred bodies were lying on the floor. Could it be that the remains have been annihilated? Chapter 520, The World is Shocked. Could it be that the remains have been annihilated? An unbelievable thought surfaced in the minds of the 4 experts from the Spiritual Wind sect. They stood at the base of the remains that had been raised while staring blankly at the surroundings. When they looked across, they couldn't help but gasp. Where are the remains? That's one of the 4 strongest devil sects. It's even stronger than an ordinary sacred sect, and yet it has now been razed to the ground. Who did this? Who is capable of doing this? An old man looked around in shock. Looking at the corpses on the ground, he hesitated for a moment before jumping into the middle of the flames. Ka ka ka. As he landed on the bones, sounds of bones cracking gave him chills. He walked towards the structure in the middle and saw the sacrificial ritual platform with the word, "Remains," engraved prominently on it. Around them, there were no longer any signs of life. All the people had died. The old man flew into the sky and suddenly noticed a huge body below him. That was the body of a young man with 10 terrifying tailbones. At this moment, the tailbones scattered into ashes when a gentle breeze blew past. Those 10 tailbones. That must be the corpse of the Lord of the Remains. Astonishment was written all over the old man's face as he mumbled with a shaky voice. The remains being annihilated is a piece of good news for all Orthodox sections. The only question would be who would have done so. The other old man by the side sank into deep thought. He had a conjecture in mind, but he wasn't certain. In the underworld, who would be capable of this? An old man looked ahead before exchanging glances with the others. Only the Dragon King and his subordinates have entered this place today. Moreover, only the Dragon King is capable of annihilating the remains in the underworld at this moment. The Dragon King of Dragon Sect. Why did he want to annihilate the remains? Now that he has a deep feud with Donghua Sacred Sect, would he dare to offend the devil sects too? An old man shook his head in disbelief. Becoming the enemy of Donghua Sacred Sect and diabolism. Could it be that the Dragon King is trying to make the whole world his enemy? Making the whole world his enemy. He is really making everyone his enemy. The Dragon King's actions aren't something we can predict. He has offended the leader of the Orthodox sects and annihilated the remains from diabolism in the same day. Arrogance. Really arrogant. Let's go. If the people of the underworld are to learn about this, they probably will be shocked and stirred. Donghua Sacred Sect is going to be embarrassed in this matter. The few of them conversed and took a further glance at the base of the remains that was still shrouded in flames. With shocked and complicated feelings, they headed back towards Ling City. Along the way, they saw 2 inborn experts dashing past them. They didn't converse and simply went on their own way. Night. The entire world had quietened down. Activity on the forum of the Underworld website had also died down deep into the night. The critiques of the Dragon King and the Dragon Sect had also paused for the moment. However, a thread suddenly appeared deep into the night. The remains have been annihilated. This thread came with pictures of the huge fire in the base of the remains and the corpses within the area. When this piece of news was announced, it didn't cause a huge ruckus at night. Nonetheless, there were still 1,000 comments. On the second morning, Wang Xian headed to the floating island near Rivertown after waking up. Looking at the devil metal steel and tenacious devil stone on the ground, he hesitated for a moment before starting to craft weapons. I hope I can succeed. After I craft this inborn spiritual equipment, the Dragonians will be invincible among inborn experts with them. Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile as anticipation beamed in his eyes. At this moment, what Wang Xian didn't know was that his actions yesterday had shocked the world. Late at night, when the threat of the remains being annihilated was posted, it only drew the attention of 1,000+ people. Some of them didn't believe it while others had doubts in mind. Some sects and experts nearing the Ling city sent their men over out of curiosity. When they entered the nest of the remains and saw the situation, they couldn't help but be astonished. Early in the morning, the news of the remains being annihilated had truly kicked up a storm. The remains, one of the 4 strongest devil sects, has been annihilated. Flames have raised through their base and all the experts of the remains are dead. This has been verified. Many people might not have believed the news last night about the remains being annihilated. We are located near the base of the remains. After heading there, we are sure to say that the remains have indeed been annihilated. Shocking. The base of the remains was reduced to ruins in a single night. Who could have annihilated the remains? The news of the remains being annihilated soon spread like wildfire. The remains was one of the 4 strongest devil sections. It was terrifying and strong. Yet, they had been annihilated. Many people in the underworld couldn't help but cheer on the news of them being annihilated. The evil and brutal acts of the remains had long infuriated many sects and families in the underworld. While they were celebrating the annihilation of the remains, the question of who had annihilated them was also thrown out. Who could have annihilated one of the 4 strongest devil sects? Who? When questions of this nature were posted, many people recalled the thread about the Dragon King of Dragon sect last night. The Dragon King of Dragon sect led a group of disciples with the disciple of the remains into the fateless forest. The thread starter saw the Dragon King headed towards the base of the remains with the disciples of the remains. Soon, news of the remains being annihilated came. At the thought of this, their jaws dropped and disbelief filled their faces. Could it be that the Dragon King was the one who annihilated the remains? What a terrifying thought. In the current underworld, Donghua Sacred Sect could have annihilated the remains. Dragon Sect is also capable of doing so. Considering that the alliance of the orthodox sects was formed yesterday, Donghua Sacred Sect wouldn't have been the one who was responsible. On the other hand, there was news of the Dragon King leading his disciples into the base of the remains. The conclusion is clear. Fuck. It's almost 100% certain that the Dragon King was the one who annihilated the remains. This Dragon King is simply too incredible. Aren't there people accusing the Dragon sect of joining diabolism? Damn. What a preposterous claim. In my view, considering the Dragon King's personality, he would never join diabolism. I believe it was Donghua Sacred Sect who accused Dragon Sect of joining diabolism and that they will be annihilating the Dragon Sect. I, the Dragon King, don't have to explain my actions to you. I can choose to become an enemy to the leader of the alliance of the orthodox sects, Donghua Sacred Sect. At the same time, I can annihilate the remains from diabolism as I wish. Damn. The Dragon King is too darn domineering. A day ago, everyone was still criticizing the Dragon King of Dragon sect. What about today? Alright, I admit I was one of them. Here, I would like to say something. Dragon sect is mighty. The Dragon King is domineering. Through this, the Dragon King has undoubtedly given a slap to all those who criticized him yesterday. At the same time, they gave a slap to Donghua Sacred Sect. This speed of slapping those who criticized them is too darned quick. Chapter 521, The World is Shocked, 3. The world is shocked. So is the underworld. When the news of the remains getting annihilated was passed around in the underworld, threads were being added into the forums at a frantic speed. Many people found it unbelievable, yet were elated by the fact that the remains were annihilated by the Dragon King of Dragon sect. On the verge of the war breaking out between the Devil and Orthodox sects, having annihilated one of the 4 Devil sects was as good as weakening Diabolism by 1/5 of their strength. Yesterday, the rumor that Dragon sect was joining Diabolism had fallen on its own, putting Donghua Sacred Sect in an awkward position instantly. The Donghua Sacred Sect is really embarrassed now. From their statement released yesterday, they were too impatient to deal with Dragon sect. Donghua Sacred Sect and the rest of the martial artists simply accused Dragon sect of joining Diabolism, so they just annihilated the remains. Which sacred sects in the underworld are capable of doing so? Even Donghua Sacred Sect would need to make tremendous efforts. I don't understand the actions of the Dragon King from Dragon sect. He just rejected to join the alliance of the Orthodox sects yesterday afternoon and even made Donghua Sacred Sect their sworn enemy. Yet, Dragon sect annihilated the remains that night. We're just average men who can't see the link. Let me clarify. The Dragon King has made Donghua Sacred Sect a sworn enemy because of Hai Jiao. Hai Jiao wanted to slay the Dragon King. Still, he was defeated by the Dragon King, and Donghua Sacred Sect wanted to protect Hai Jiao. Hence, they became enemies. But why isn't Dragon sect joining the alliance of the Orthodox sects? Why does no one ask this question? And why does Donghua Sacred Sect want to protect Hai Jiao when he was trying to kill the Dragon King and was eventually defeated? Obviously, Donghua Sacred Sect infuriated Dragon Sect, resulting in Dragon Sect turning their back on them. In any case, it was good that Dragon Sect did not join Diabolism. Otherwise, given the power of Dragon Sect and the strength of the Dragon King, we don't know how much price the underworld must pay just to annihilate Diabolism. In the internet world, netizens overturned their points of view at the speed of lightning. That is how the internet works. Yesterday, many of the martial artists were still chiding the Dragon Sect. Still, more martial artists surfaced to support Dragon Sect and the Dragon King today. However, Wang Xian would not have the slightest interest in this even if he knew about it. At this time, a group of people arrived on the floating island. Wang Xian, we're here to confirm something with you. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan led some of their disciples to the floating island and spoke to Wang Xian as soon as they saw him. Oh. What's the matter? Have you brought all the inborn level materials? Let me see how many inborn spiritual weapons I can exchange with you guys. Wang Xian said to them with a broad smile. Did you really annihilate the remains of Diabolism? Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan stared at him, setting the inborn spiritual weapons aside first. Yes, I met the people from the remains yesterday, and I don't like their ways of doing things. Since I wasn't far from their base camp, I just annihilated them, said Wang Xian without any emotion. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan exchanged glances with their lips twitching. Annihilated the remains as you wished. It is the remains you're talking about. Since the remains could effortlessly annihilate Sui clan and Xiao clan, it seemed like their gaps with Dragon sect was getting bigger. Fine, you're a demon. Sui Huang took a deep breath and continued, all the inborn level materials that we could get are here. Take a look and see how many weapons can be exchanged. Sure. Wang Xian nodded. The people from Sui clan and Xiao clan carried all the materials forward. Looking at the chests of inborn level materials, radiance was beaming from Wang Xian's eyes as he showed a hint of excitement. Take a look. Xiao Quanshan told Wang Xian as he opened the chests. Wind Feather Stone, level 10. Earthy Clay, level 10. Thunder Rock, level 10. Golden Metal Rock, level 10. Ryukinium, level 10. Vibranium, level 11. Ghost Wood, level 11. Chapter 522, devil shadow masks and devil wings. Falling for Sui Huang and Xiao Chuanshan's shameless pleas, Wang Xian threw 2 weapons casually towards them. Both of them grinned widely as though they were perverts who had their eyes fixed on a stunning beauty. Holding the weapons in their hands, they constantly wiped the weapons. One would have thought they might start drooling. With these weapons, the losses of our Sui clan will be greatly reduced in the upcoming battle against diabolism. Sui Huang looked at the rest of the inborn spiritual weapons, grinned and was beaming with excitement. All right. Now that you got what you wanted, I'm going to send you guys off. Wang Xian took a glance at the inborn level materials beside him and was prepared to start refining equipment. All right. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan didn't take offense with Wang Xian's attitude as they were grinning widely for what they had gotten. They hesitated for a moment before asking, Brother Wang Xian, are you leading the dragon sect to target diabolism in the upcoming battle? Target diabolism? Nope. I'm preparing to deal with Donghua sacred sect. Wang Xian chuckled and shook his head while a ghoulish light flashed across his eyes. Huh. Deal with Donghua sacred sect. The 2 of them were slightly shocked and frowned. Are you really not resting till one of you has perished? When they wanted to protect Hai Jiao, the outcome was decided. Wang Xian continued with a smile, all right. Just be careful in the upcoming battle between the orthodox sects and the devil sections. I'm going to get busy. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan shook their heads, exchanged glances and headed out. Deal with Donghua sacred sect. Would the dragon sect take action soon? After walking off the floating island, Xiao Quanshan turned to Sui Huang and asked this with a solemn face. It's hard to say. No one really knows what that kid is thinking. However, he's a pretty good person and isn't bad at all at his core. Regardless, let's help each other to reduce our losses for the upcoming battle. Sui Huang heaved a sigh and shook his head. Donghua Sacred Sect made a statement on the Underworld website just a while ago. Oh. What kind of statement? They said that the dragon sect annihilating the remains is the right decision. Since they have the capabilities, they should be doing more for the underworld and eliminating more devil sects. Huh. Donghua Sacred Sect probably did this on purpose. They want the devil sects to go after the dragon sect. That's probably what they have in mind. As one of the 4 strongest devil sects, the remains were well regarded in diabolism. Donghua Sacred Sect is fanning the feud on purpose to induce the devil sects to deal with the dragon sect. It's going to be trouble now since the dragon sect has offended Donghua Sacred Sect and diabolism. Although offending Donghua Sacred Sect and diabolism will be problematic to the dragon sect only has 50 disciples. Moreover, all of them are inborn experts. If they really wanted to hide, no one could find them. We can protect their kin for them. Brother Wang Xian has been really generous this time. Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan conversed. They weren't going to do anything about the dragon sect. Even if they wished, they couldn't. Protecting the kin of Wang Xian could very well be the only thing they could do to help. This was also in gratitude to Wang Xian for gifting them the weapons. Wang Xian didn't know about Sui Huang and Xiao Quanshan's thoughts. If he knew, he would probably laugh it off. At this moment, Guan Shuqing, Lan Qingyue, Xiao Yu, and the rest wouldn't require him to protect them at all. Disregarding their personal strength, Ajaya was still around. Who could possibly harm them in the current underworld? Even if Nie Wushuang and Emperor Qi from Diabolism were to attack them together, they wouldn't be able to harm the girls in the slightest. The only shameful thing was, his backyard was on fire. Wang Xian brought all the inborn level materials to the wand forging table and wand forging hammer. He took a deep breath. Refining equipment wasn't very different from ordinary smithing. The most obvious difference would be that the level of the materials differed substantially. Based on the introduction in the Fire God's Secret Book, one would just require the materials and forging technique to craft level 10 and level 11 equipment. They didn't involve the use of spirit arrays. Another difference between equipment refining and smithing was that refining higher-level equipment required an art of forging. The forging of the edge of the blade, the forging of a truncheon and many others required the consideration of the conductivity of spiritual energy. For example, when crafting fire attribute inborn spiritual weapons, one had to consider the conductivity and enhancement of fire energy. Ordinary inborn spiritual weapons could enhance an ordinary martial artist's strength by 50%. Powerful inborn spiritual weapons could increase such enhancement to 80%. This greatly depended on one's skill in forging. An exceptionally important issue would be the conductivity of attribute energy. One had to go through thousands of rounds of practice to get it right. Otherwise, some weapons that were crafted would not be able to enhance one's strength. Instead, they would even hinder one's ordinary strength. Other than the art of forging, there is also the selection of materials and the special features of the weapon. Wang Xian pondered as he looked to the materials before him. Combining materials together could bring out even greater energy. The combination of materials was even tougher and required constant experimentation. Naturally, one could also just use a single type of material. Since I can't forge weapons that suit my current strength, I might as well forge some equipment for the Dragonians. Wang Xian thought to himself. He picked up the two inborn level metals, Devil Metal Steel and Tenacious Devil Stone, which he had gotten from the remains. Dragonians wouldn't require weapons as their dragon claws are even stronger than inborn spiritual weapons. I can discount the weapons then. As for defense, even inborn level armor would not be of much use after considering the toughness of their physical bodies. In that case, Wang Xian moved his arm and a mask appeared in his hand. This was the Devil Shadow mask he had obtained from the treasure cove of the remains. After wearing it, one could release a shadow. Although the shadow was illusory, devil attribute cultivators could shroud themselves in devilish aura. This would make the illusory shadow a little more realistic. This was a piece of secondary equipment and its effects would differ from person to person. However, it would be a rather good choice for the Dragonians. Wang Xian moved his hands over the Devil Shadow mask while memorizing every contour on it. He picked up a piece of Devil Metal Steel and placed it on the wand forging table. First, I have to heat the Devil Metal Steel till it melts so I can change its appearance. As a level 13 spiritual forging equipment, the wand forging table had a powerful enhancement. Mold creation. One could create a mold of the equipment to be crafted. After which, one would have to use the wand forging hammer to hammer it into shape before inducing attribute conductivity. Within the wand forging table, flames were imbued. 5 level 12 spiritual flame balls were embedded on it. If the wand forging table wasn't for refining equipment, Wang Xian would have extracted the spiritual flame balls from it. Other than the flames of the wand forging table, one could also use his own flames. The creation of a mold was simple. Melting the metal and refining it was tough. However, the toughest was the management of the conductivity of the equipment. Wang Xian created a mold on the wand forging table. After which, he started smelting and refining the Devil Metal Steel. Let's begin. Wang Xian took a deep breath. With just a thought, a small origin source flame appeared on his palm. His lips curved into a smile as he directed the origin source flame onto the wand forging table. Ding! Refine equipment with the origin source flame. The notification of the system sounded and Wang Xian was beaming with excitement. Following which, the process of refining would start. As the Devil Metal Steel was placed on the origin source flame, it softened rapidly. Wang Xian lifted the wand forging hammer and hammered down. All the impurities within were instantly purged. Chapter 523, It's Time to Strike. Clang clang clang. Bam, bam, bam. The hammering sound kept coming as Wang Xian had not stopped hammering the sheet of devil metal steel according to the forging method in the art of equipment refining. The most amazing effect of using the origin source flame to refine equipment was the removal of impurities. Removal of impurities was a crucial step, as the impurities could affect the properties of conduction and therefore affect the power of the weapons. Secondly, the origin source flame had another strong effect, to soften any types of metal speedily. It could achieve the same temperature between the interior and exterior of the metal. For refining equipment, these effects were like great plugins. After Wang Xian placed the devil metal steel in the mold, he quickly hammered it. Soon, the shape of a mask was formed. After the semi-finished mask was done, he could proceed with conducting the attributes into the mask. When Wang Xian examined the conductivity of the semi-finished mask, he instantly found out that the conductivity was smooth without any blockage. It must be the origin source flame. The so-called conductivity has a simple way of testing. When the attribution passes through, it will straightaway appear at the end of the device. Just like electric conduction. Some have poor or good conductivity. This had to do with the impurities in the materials. The rest did not have much of an impact. It's easy to solve the issue of conductivity when using a single material to craft a weapon. But when it comes to using two or more materials, the conductivity is a key point. Wang Xian was elated. Using the origin source flame to refine equipment was such an easy task. Some of the blacksmiths would spend a long time just to make an inborn spiritual weapon. Take Zhan Lu, for example. It was said that he used 3 months just to make the ancient sword of Zhan Lu. Wang Xian took the wand forging hammer, making some small adjustments to the mask. Phew, it's done. Devil Shadow Mask, Level 10. A black-colored mask isn't that nice at all. I should draw an abyss on it. The abyss mask looks cool and impressive. Wang Xian was wearing smiles as he looked at the mask. He put it on, and a shadow emerged beside him. The shadow was vague because he was not using any devil attributions. Once the devil attribution was activated, the shadow would turn realistic, and it could distract the opponent during combat. I'll make 50 of them. Wang Xian looked at the material, raised his wand forging hammer, and began to speed up his crafting process. Level 13 Supreme Class Weapons with Origin Source Flame, a crazy flame. Making inborn spiritual weapons was a breeze to him. After the hammering sound continued for more than 2 hours, Wang Xian had completed 50 devil shadow masks. But he did not stop and went on to make other stuff. It was another piece of auxiliary equipment, a pair of devil wings. The speed of Dragonians was a flaw compared to their power and defense. If they had a pair of wings, it could significantly enhance their speed. On the other hand, wings and masks had a complementary effect. Since Wang Xian had the origin source flame, he thought of an idea, to make the devil shadow mask and devil wings into a suit. This way, they could complement each other, making it a simple spiritual weapon suit. The suit had one feature, and that was a complement. There were 2 types of complements. One was the spiritual complement, and one was the power complement. The spiritual complement was somewhat more advanced, while the power complement was simpler. But to Wang Xian, this was a piece of cake. However, making a pair of wings was undoubtedly much more difficult. The 3 materials required were tenacious devil stone, wind feather stone, and golden metal rock. With this 3 metal combination, it added a lot of difficulty to the crafting of the weapon. The tenacious devil stone was the primary material, while the other 2 materials were supplementary. Wang Xian had to bring out the characteristics of these materials, at the same time, not to affect the attribution conductivity. Bam, bam, bam. For the whole day, Wang Xian had not stopped his hammering and research. Making auxiliary weapons like the wings proved to be too difficult, as Wang Xian spent 8 hours to make one. The pair of devil wings spread out 1.5 meters on each side, 3 meters with both sides extended out. The entire wings were pure black with 5 frames supporting them in the middle. After adding the wind feather stone, the entire wings were as light as a feather. When they conducted with their devilish aura, they could soar effortlessly into the sky. That would increase their speed by another 50%. But before using the devil wings, one had to embed a spiritual stone at the position of the wind feather stone to activate its effect. Fortunately, the consumption was not massive, and it could be brushed off. Flap. Wang Xian spread out the wings with a crisp clear sound. After he tested them, the wings shrunk, and would not be affecting anything. Even spreading the wings during a battle would not have the slightest hindrance to movement. Wang Xian had a satisfied look on his face. After putting on the mask, it would be simply impressive if he had another black trench coat. Should I make one too? Wang Xian raised his eyebrow as he was intrigued. But after looking at the material, it was a pity that the materials he had were insufficient. He shook his head without any choice. After putting on the mask, 2 pieces of metal could buckle on the wings, linking the 2 items, creating the simple effect of a suit. Wang Xian moved around, and an illusory shadow emerged beside him. With his lips curled, he continued making his devil wings. Dragon King. When the moon was hanging in the night sky, Missouri Yuan called out from outside. Come in. Wang Xian wiped the sweat on his forehead. Even he was a little tired after crafting weapons for the entire day. Dragon King, omniscient group is now under our control, said Mo Yuan to Wang Xian excitedly. Under our control? That fast? A trace of thrill flashed across Wang Xian's eyes. Yes, there were not many people at the higher management level. On top of that, they were ordinary people. Hence, it was easy for us to take control, and now we have gained access to the information in Omniscient Group. Mo Yuan nodded his head with force. Great. Wang Xian squinted his eyes. From now on, collect all the information on Donghua Sacred Sect. Since we won't rest unless one of us is dead, we should do something about it. As Wang Xian spoke, he drew his lips. Yes, Dragon King. We'll get Omniscient Group to send us all the information about Donghua Sacred Sect. Okay. Wang Xian nodded. Seeing the well-made inborn spiritual weapons, he smiled and took out his phone to rest on the chair. When he read the messages on the Underworld Forum, he put up a faint smile. Everyone was discussing the Dragon King and Dragon Sect. The news of the remains being annihilated had shaken the entire underworld. After Donghua Sacred Sect released another statement, all the martial artists of the underworld were hoping the Dragon King and Dragon Sect could wipe out the rest of the devil sections. All of them were discussing the Dragon King and Dragon Sect's strength. Dragon Sect was known to be the next strongest sacred sect after Donghua Sacred Sect. At the same time, all of Diabolism had noticed the fact that Wang Xian had annihilated the remains. Some of them had posted threads on the Underworld Forum, saying they would annihilate the Dragon King to avenge the remains. Chapter 524, Killing Experts from Donghua Sacred Sect, 1. I hope the Dragon Sect can annihilate more devil sections. In that case, annihilating the entire Diabolism will be an easy task together with the strength of the orthodox sects. Even Donghua Sacred Sect wishes to see the Dragon Sect annihilate more devil sections. They probably have high regard for the strength of the Dragon Sect. Let's hope that the Dragon King can eradicate more devil sects. Wang Xian noticed there were more and more threads of this nature after Donghua Sacred Sect made its statement. Besides that, there were threads that cheered on the Dragon Sect and the Dragon King. They proudly boasted about the invincibility of the Dragon King and the Dragon Sect, the Dragon King who saw all evil as his enemies, for whom eliminating Diabolism entirely would be a walk in the park. There were all kinds of discussions. Subsequently, the devil sects made their statements to warn the Dragon Sect and Dragon King to stay low and that they would be taking revenge for the remains. The entire underworld was exceptionally lively. Looking through these comments, ruthlessness flashed in the eyes of Wang Xian. It seems like Donghua Sacred Sect is truly scheming. They hope to see me annihilate more devil sects. Hee hee. I have no feud with the devil sects, but I do have one against you. Wang Xian's expression turned cold as ice. Looking at the messages popping up on his phone, he stood up and continued refining spiritual equipment. The effects of this inborn spiritual equipment would be first tested on Donghua Sacred Sect. After working through an entire night, Wang Xian had crafted 50 sets of Devil Shadow Mask and Devil Wings. Seeing the inborn spiritual equipment that was glowing with a dull light, he revealed a satisfied smile. Dragon King. These are the pieces of information that Omniscient Group has gathered on Donghua Sacred Sect. Soon after, Mo Yuan carried a set of information to Wang Xian. Can we find an entry point? A few days have passed and it's time to give Donghua Sacred Sect a surprise. Wang Xian looked through the information as he asked Mo Yuan. Entry point. Mo Yuan sank into deep thought. Soon, he lifted his head and answered, Dragon King, we do have an opportunity tomorrow. What kind of opportunity? Nia Wushuang of the Donghua Sacred Sect and Emperor Qi of Diabolism have arranged to meet at Huashan for the supreme battle. 80% of the inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect will likely attend this major battle. However, there will be some who remain to guard an area. Donghua spiritual or mine, answered Mo Yuan. Donghua spiritual or mine? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow as he flipped through the information in his hands. Other than having Nia Wushuang, the reason why Donghua Sacred Sect could become the strongest sacred sect in the underworld was because of the spiritual or mine. A spiritual or mine that one could excavate spiritual stones. Based on the information on record, Donghua Sacred Sect could excavate 40 to 50,000 spiritual stones from the spiritual or mine annually. 40 to 50,000 spiritual stones was an insane amount. Because of the existence of the spiritual or mine, the number of inborn experts in Donghua Sacred Sect easily triumphed in the underworld. Donghua spiritual or mine is just 50 kilometers away from the sacred grounds of Donghua Sacred Sect. If we ambush them tomorrow, we can easily kill all the experts that remain to guard to spiritual or mine. Mo Yuan answered confidently. 50 kilometers. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow. Yeah. 50 kilometers. A Dan Realm expert will be leading the guards with at least a dozen odd inborn experts. It's an incredibly important location for Donghua Sacred Sect. Mo Yuan nodded his head. In that case, we don't have to wait to attack them until they are away. The people in the underworld would believe that we are afraid of Donghua Sacred Sect. Since we are going to attack, we shall do it tonight. A beam of ruthlessness gleamed in Wang Xian's eyes as he spoke. Tonight? Mo Yuan pondered for a moment before asking, Dragon King, would you want to go with us? Naturally. Nia Wushuang from Donghua Sacred Sect will likely have reached the budding realm. If he is there, you guys wouldn't be a match. Wang Xian nodded his head before continuing. Inform all disciples of the Dragon Sect to head towards Donghua spiritual or mine. The battle has begun. The battle has begun. Wang Xian didn't have the intention to target with Donghua Sacred Sect so quickly. However, he wanted to give Donghua Sacred Sect a lesson after seeing their statements on the underworld. Otherwise, Donghua Sacred Sect would assume that his Dragon Sect was just a joke. Since they had decided to not rest till a side had perished, so be it. Wang Xian smirked coldly. Distribute these Devil Shadow Masks and Devil Wings to all the Dragonians and test out the strength. Yes, Dragon King. Mo Yuan nodded his head. Soon, the disciples of the Dragon Sect arrived one after another. Let's go. The group of Dragonians kept the Devil Shadow Masks and Devil Wings as they followed behind Wang Xian towards Donghua Sacred Sect. They didn't take any form of transportation vehicles. Dragon sect was currently in an opposing stand to Donghua sacred sect. There was no way Donghua sacred sect would not guard against the dragon sect. Moreover, Donghua sacred sect definitely had its own intelligence channels. If he had headed towards Donghua sacred sect with so many people, they would definitely be alerted. As such, Wang Xian and the group of Dragonians chose to fly there directly. In a deserted area, a group of people were in black clothes and wore black hideous-looking masks. Behind them, they had pairs of wings that spanned over 3 meters. The group of 50-odd people flew rapidly across the sky. They were just like a flash of shadows as they moved ahead at a tremendous speed. Inborn-level wings can fully enable an inborn expert to fly rapidly across the sky. In fact, they are even faster than airplanes. Wang Xian mumbled as he looked ahead of him. At this very moment, the higher management of Donghua Sacred Sect was gathered in a hall in Donghua Sacred Sect. No one was in the master's seat. Nia Wuya and several other Dan Realm experts were seated closer to the front. Other than the 3 Dan Realm experts that had shown themselves during the alliance of the orthodox sects, there were 2 other old men by their side with faint auras emitting from them. Tomorrow will be the major battle between our sect leader and Emperor Qi. At that time, Old Xiang will guard the sect while Old Zhou will guard the spiritual or mine. As for the rest, we will follow the sect leader. Nia Wuya instructed the other old men around him. I really want to witness the battle of the ages of the underworld and see how insanely strong our sect leader is currently, an old man commented. Old Zhou, we can't leave the spiritual or mine unguarded. Nia Wuya said to the old man with a smile. It doesn't matter if it is guarded or not. Who dares to have ulterior motives on Donghua Sacred Sect? The old man snorted confidently while clearly looking displeased. Hee hee. Nia Wuya chuckled. That dragon king from the dragon sect has the guts to stand against us. How brazen. The dragon king of the dragon sect is indeed arrogant and fearless. After offending us, they went to annihilate the remains. Even the devil sects are looking to kill the dragon king to take revenge for the remains. That dragon king is indeed strong, but we will definitely be able to kill him if we fight him together. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem if the 5 of us work together. Although the dragon king is arrogant, he isn't weak at all. Nonetheless, he will likely not live long after offending us and the devil sections. He will either be killed by us or by the devil sects. Nia Wuya chuckled. We still can't drop our guard right now. If the Dragon King were to ambush us when we leave, it would be problematic. Hee hee. We have an ancient defensive spirit array over the spiritual or mine that can even trap any Dan Realm experts. If he's here, we will just trap him here. The old man who was addressed as Old Zhou smirked and continued, a Dragon King isn't a cause for concern yet. If he dares to come, I'll turn him into a trapped beast. He's indeed not a cause of concern. However, the devil sects are running amok. If it were peacetime, the dragon sect would have been annihilated. There's no way he could be arrogant like now. Tisk. Nia Wuya snorted and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Ha! Leave the spiritual or mine to me and don't worry about it. I'll just kill anyone who comes. Old Zhou said while brimming with killing intent. Chapter 525, Killing Experts from Donghua Sacred Sect, 2. Donghua spiritual or mine was situated in the Qilu mountain range. Spiritual energy had diminished during the ending of the Age of Dharma, leaving fewer and fewer spiritual or mine in the world. Within the territory of China, the only spiritual or mine was guarded by Donghua Sacred Sect. And not many ancestral sects knew of the exact location of Donghua spiritual or mine as it was top secret. As omniscient group and the enemy of Donghua Sacred Sect, Diabolism knew the location of Donghua spiritual or mine very well. The mechanical sound that had been blasted for the entire day on Donghua's spiritual or mine had finally ended at night. Large pieces of heavy machinery were placed in the spiritual or mine. Surrounding Donghua's spiritual or mine were woods towering at a dozen meters high just to conceal its location. This place was totally secluded even though houses were built by the side of the spiritual or mine. The interior of the houses were simple but luxurious. Inborn experts walked out of the houses around the mine, and did their routine checks. All clear, a middle-aged man said with a smile on his face. Staying put at this isolated spiritual or mine really bores me to death. We won't even get to view the battle between sect leader and Emperor Qi from Diabolism. Holding a vajra in his hand, a bald, middle-aged man not far away shook his head and remarked plainly. During normal times, it's fine to have lesser people over here. But it's the critical period now, and this place needs to be heavily guarded. Isn't Supreme Old Zhou staying here every day? An elder smiled to the bald man as he spoke. It's all because of damn Diabolism and Dragon Sect. Otherwise, we won't have to keep watch over here every day. The bald, middle-aged man swung the vajra in his hand. If I see them, I'll send them to hell. Especially, that Dragon King from Dragon Sect. God damn it. The Dragon King of Dragon Sect is not our concern. When we settle Diabolism, the Dragon Sect will be easily settled as well. The old man replied without any emotion. But we should not belittle them. After all, they annihilated the remains. Hence, their strength must be strong. I wonder how a 20-year-old lad possesses such daunting strength. Do you guys think he chanced upon something great? That's for sure. The rise of the Dragon King was too fast and furious. He must have inherited some powerful ancient sect's legacy. After we settle Diabolism, the first thing that Donghua Sacred Sect will do is get rid of Dragon Sect. If we can take over his legacy, it will be another boost to Donghua Sacred Sect. Fancy defeating Hai Jiao at age 20. What a scary legacy he has. We cannot let him develop further. All the inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect were exchanging conversations. The bald, middle-aged man with the vajra suddenly looked around. If I were the Dragon King, I would come here. Then we could. Trap the beast and slay the dragon. If Dragon Sect found out about this place, they might really come over. But they should be sneaking in for an attack tomorrow. I dare him to come today since all the experts of Donghua Sacred Sect can rush over here in 10 minutes. Okay, let's get some rest now. The old man gestured a dismissive wave at the group of people and flitted to one of the rooms. The bald, middle-aged man shook his head slightly as he placed the vajra on his shoulder and headed to the room where he was staying. At this moment, his body was suddenly stifled as he narrowed his eyes and peered somewhere in front of him. A trace of horror and surprise flashed across his eyes. Someone is flying towards us. The bald, middle-aged man sounded out softly as he clenched his vajra tightly while he alerted his companions around him. The inborn experts who had just reached the porches of their houses were stunned for a moment and looked ahead. Dong dong dong. The sound of a bell was clearly heard within a radius of a few kilometers around Donghua Spiritual or Mine. Someone is here. The disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect walked out from the houses, observing the surroundings with doubts. Why would anyone come at this time? Within a room in the most central house, Supreme Old Zhou of Donghua Sacred Sect opened his eyes. With a swift move, he appeared outside of the house instantly. 15 inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect were standing in the air while hundreds of level 8 and level 9 disciples were standing below with their eyes fixed ahead. Old Zhou made a quick move and took the forefront position. He squinted his eyes slightly and peered ahead. Over there were 50 black figures with scary masks and pairs of black devil wings behind them. They were hovering towards them, looking menacing. 50. They have 50 men. The bald, Middle-aged man glared ahead with cold eyes and remarked in an icy tone. 50 men. The rest of them gazed suspiciously ahead. 50 men. The dragon sect. They have devilish attributes. On top of that, they have 50 men. It's the dragon sect, no doubt. They are barging into Donghua spiritual or mine. Prepare to fight. Cold bellows were heard from everyone, while old Zhou fixed his gaze on the figure who was in the middle. He was wearing the same mask and had a similar pair of wings, but old Zhou could still tell that it was the figure of a young man. At the same time, he could sense a horrifying aura coming from that young man. Dragon King of Dragon Sect, what a surprise. I didn't expect that you would choose this time to break into our Donghua spiritual or mine. There was a flash of cold radiance in old Zhou's eyes. Contact the experts from the ancestral sect. Today, we'll hold everyone from Dragon Sect over here. This is also a good sign for the battle of the sect leader tomorrow. Old Zhou revealed a faint smile as he instructed the disciple beside him. Yes. A disciple nodded his head immediately as he delivered the message instantaneously to Donghua Sacred Sect. A large number of experts of Donghua Sacred Sect would arrive 10 minutes later. They are here to receive us. Seeing a dozen people standing in front in the air, coldness swept across Wang Xian's eyes. Just with 10 odd inborn experts. How would they dare to receive us here? It looks like they have some hidden cards. Wang Xian squinted his eyes a little as he scanned around him with red-blue radiance in his eyes. A special layer of energy appeared within his vision. He had seen this when he was at Huashan. Obviously, this bout of energy was weaker by 100 times as compared to Huashan. The hidden energy encompassed an area of 5 kilometers. Donghua Sacred Sect is just 50 kilometers away from here. Their reinforcements will be able to reach here in 10 minutes. We must kill them all by then. Wang Xian commanded the surrounding Dragonians in a dull voice. Yes, Dragon King. Wang Xian jerked his devil wings behind him, and so did the 49 Dragonians behind him, emanating bouts of formidable aura. The intense killing aura surged from their bodies while devil clouds were coalescing in the sky, as if devils were emerging from the abyss. It was petrifying and domineering. Chapter 526, Trapped Beasts. Killing the Dragon. What terrifying auras. Is this the full strength of the Dragon Sect? So powerful. Devil clouds are even coalescing over the sky. It's no surprise they could annihilate the remains. The Dragon Sect is indeed not simple. When the terrifying cloud of aura moved rapidly towards them with the devil clouds above them, the crowd of Donghua Sacred Sect was astonished. This strength could easily annihilate all of us. The bald middle-aged man felt a chill run down his spine when he saw the Dragon Sect within 1,000 meters of them. They are indeed strong and aren't something we can withstand. It's no surprise that Nyawuya and the other 3 weren't confident in keeping them behind on the day of the alliance of the orthodox sects. Old Zhou looked plainly at the approaching experts of the Dragon Sect. When he saw them stopping before him, he revealed a chilling smirk and shouted, "How arrogant of the Dragon Sect to barge into our Donghua spiritual or mine at this moment." Wang Xian and the Dragonians stopped in the air 1,000 meters away from them. They extended their wings and resembled terrifying devils from hell. It doesn't matter the time, nor do we need to resort to ambushing to kill the people from the Donghua Sacred Sect. We are killing you guys here to send out a warning. Moreover, this is just the beginning. Wang Xian looked at the disciples of the Donghua Sacred Sect before him and spoke plainly. Arrogant and presumptuous. Old Zhou stared emotionlessly at Wang Xian as he remarked, "You must be the Dragon King. Since you dare to be here today, you can rest here forever. This is an auspicious land after all. Alright, we have no time to chat with you here. In 9 minutes, the reinforcements of the Donghua Sacred Sect will be here. Wang Xian looked across the disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect as he shouted, "Killing you guys will be a reminder to the Donghua Sacred Sect that our dragon sect isn't just kidding when we say we won't rest till one party perishes. Go!" Wang Xian instructed the Dragonians behind him. "Kill!" all the Dragonians behind Wang Xian shouted. With immense killing intent overflowing, they charged towards Donghua Sacred Sect. TSK. Seeing the disciples of the dragon sect charging towards him, old Zhou turned cold as ice. The inborn experts behind him also gave cold grins. Who would have expected the dragon sect to be made up of a bunch of fools? Perhaps they are in over their heads after annihilating the remains. When the inborn experts of Donghua Sacred Sect witnessed what had transpired, they weren't worried at all. Instead, they were grinning with contempt. Annihilating a foolish sect with 5,000 spiritual stones. What a bad deal. Old Zhou looked emotionlessly at the group of dragon sect's disciples charging ahead. He moved his arm and shouted, "Move back." "Move back," the group of inborn experts shouted as they retreated rapidly. Screech, screech, screech. The moment they retreated, the space within a span of 5 kilometers seemed to be distorting. An invisible shield fell from the sky suddenly and shrouded the entire region. The group of Dragonians that had charged ahead was surprised. Attack! Mo Yuan's expression turned solemn as his palm underwent a terrifying transformation. A terrifying dragon claw appeared. Behind him, the Dragonians' palms also underwent terrifying changes. Bam! 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 Dragon claws attacked the invisible shield before them and terrifying destructive force fell upon it. Unmovable. Unshakable. There were no ripples or any signs of movement when the attacks of the Dragonians fell on it. This greatly shocked the Dragonians. The disciples of the Dragonians are really strong. When an expert from Donghua Sacred Sect saw the attacks from the Dragonians, fear flashed in his eyes as he commented solemnly. So what? They are still trapped beasts now, a middle-aged man standing by the side said with a faint smile. That's true. The old man grinned and looked at the disciples of the dragon sect with contempt. He commented, "They are strong but aren't very intelligent." Ha, that's right. They are nothing compared to the scheming followers of diabolism. If diabolism had the same intelligence level as them, it would be great for us. Come, shall we celebrate? Ha! When the disciples of the Donghua Sacred Sect saw the dragon sect being trapped within the spirit array, they smiled confidently. They stood outside the shield and constantly ridiculed them. What's this? A spirit array of the legends? Looking at the transparent shield before him, Mo Yuan looked bitter. He looked across and shouted, "Attack! Kill!" The Dragonians flapped their wings rapidly and charged towards the spirit array shield. Rumble! Terrifying forces that could even kill an ordinary inborn expert fell on the spirit array shield, causing dull clashing sounds. However, the shield wasn't moved. There wasn't even any sign of movement. Hee hee. They must be dreaming to think they can destroy the spirit array. Strong contempt gleamed in the eyes of old Zhou as he looked at the Dragonians attacking the shield. He felt ridiculed by the arrogance and conceit of the dragon sect. Just today, he had heard about Niawuya and the rest being a little surprised by the Dragon King and being a little wary of the dragon sect. Now, it would seem like they were nothing. When the experts of our Donghua Sacred Sect are here, it will also be the time they will be killed. An inborn expert chuckled. Supreme Elder, the people of the dragon sect are so presumptuous to announce they won't rest till one side perishes. Can I broadcast what's happening here to the underworld so the rest will know the consequences of going against us? That's a good idea. Let the whole underworld know how the foolish dragon sect has been annihilated by us. Ha! A disciple shouted excitedly. Old Zhou, who was standing in the middle, smiled faintly and nodded his head. Hee hee. When that middle-aged man saw the approval given by the Supreme Elder, he was beaming with excitement. He took out his phone, took a few pictures and entered the Underworld website. The insignificant dragon sect is just a pile of trash. They aren't qualified to stand toe-to-toe with us. Today, we will be killing them off. They are now trapped beasts waiting to be slaughtered. In the future, there will be no dragon sect or dragon king. The middle-aged man grinned as he uploaded the pictures he had taken to the Underworld website and started the thread. He could already foresee the forces and martial artists of the Underworld being shocked by the news. Just a day ago, the dragon sect had annihilated the remains. This had shocked the entire Underworld as everyone was astonished by the strength of the dragon sect. And today, the dragon sect would be annihilated by their Donghua sacred sect. From here onwards, the status of their Donghua sacred sect would be unshakable and no one would dare to challenge them. The outcome of the dragon sect would be a great example of those who dared to offend Donghua sacred sect. They are now just trapped beasts. In the future, there will be no arrogant dragon sect or dragon king. Old Zhou smiled with contempt at the Dragonians who were still attacking the spirit array. Chapter 527, 1 minute. What? Trap the beast and slay the dragon? What just happened? Are the guys from the dragon sect trapped by those from the Donghua sacred sect? The post was up for barely a minute, and it was the spotlight of the Underworld immediately. Upon clicking the post, the various martial artists of the Underworld were shocked to see a photo of a group of masked Dragonians. Are those people wearing masks with black wings disciples from the dragon sect? Is the Dragon King among them? Who posted this? Is this from the Donghua sacred sect? This is not real, is it? From the photo, it looks like the guys from the dragon sect have been trapped. Does this mean that the Donghua sacred sect has raised an attack on the dragon sect? No way. The dragon sect destroyed the remains only yesterday, much to the delight of everyone. But today, they landed themselves in the hands of the Donghua sacred sect. This spells total annihilation for the dragon sect. The 50 people in the photo do look like they are from the dragon sect. By putting this information out, the disciples from the Donghua sacred sect most certainly want the dragon sect dead. From the background in the photo, it seems like it was taken in the mountains. Could it be that the dragon sect had secretly planned for a sneak attack on the Donghua sacred sect, but was completely wiped out by them instead? It does seem possible for the dragon sect to launch a sneak attack on Donghua sacred sect. Going by the character of the Dragon King, he had already intended to fight the Donghua sacred sect till the end. Thus he'll not let them off easily. But by the looks of things, it looks like they were trapped by the Donghua sacred sect. The Dragon King is too self-conceited. Maybe with the annihilation of the remains yesterday, he felt confident enough to take on the Donghua sacred sect. But doing that is just an act of courting death. Gone. The dragon sect is completely gone now. They chose to take on the Donghua sacred sect while they are still leagues below their level. Countless martial artists of the underworld expressed their comments under the post. Nobody expected that this would have happened. Yesterday, the dragon sect destroyed the remains. Today, they are on the way to being destroyed by the Donghua sacred sect. The turn of events left the martial artists of the underworld filled with emotions. The Dragon King is too self-conceited. That is the Donghua sacred sect we are talking about. Their presence is a sign of invincibility in the underworld. Provoking them will lead to the downfall of the dragon sect for sure. I knew that the dragon sect and Dragon King would not live long, not with their arrogance. It makes total sense that they get wiped out. One of the martial artists commented under the post. The dragon sect had lived their worth. By destroying the remains, they got rid of one of the underworld's greatest nemeses. But the dragon sect and the Dragon King were threats themselves. This is good riddance. Support the Donghua sacred sect. The news put a smile on the faces of some martial artists, who were in support of the decimation of the dragon sect. Although some other sacred sects were filled with mixed emotions when they first saw the post, their faces lit up with smiles eventually. To them, it was certainly a good thing that the dragon sect was gone. They did not want such a strong yet unbridled force to remain in the underworld. While the underworld was shocked by the content of the post, Wang Xian was found standing in the center of a spirit array. Faced with the smug looks of the gang of Donghua sacred sect disciples, he was seen beaming with a smile. Trap the beast and slay the dragon. You will have to be able to trap the dragon first. Wang Xian said with a slight sneer. He looked up and slowly raised his right arm. In a split second, the entire arm underwent a horrific change. The entire arm emitted a golden glow, turning gold in color, and then transforming into a golden dragon claw. The partial dragonification replaced his arm with a solid dragon claw. Haha, trying to break our spirit array? Stop your wishful thinking. This is one of the only 2 legendary spirit arrays that our Donghua sacred sect practices. It's impossible for any Dan realm experts to break this array. Old Zhou saw the transformation on Wang Xian's arm and had a look of contempt across his face. Really? Your lives are about to end in just 1 more minute. Wang Xian said with a faint grin on his face as he fixed his eyes on the supreme elder of Donghua sacred sect. Ha, let me tell you this. You all have only 5 more minutes to live. After the 5 minutes are up, our experts from the Donghua sacred sect will annihilate your entire dragon sect. Old Zhou laughed in the direction of Wang Xian. The group of inborn experts behind Old Zhou slowly raised their heads with their arms folded. Dragon King, give us your best shot. We will cheer for you from here. Ha! They guffawed with sneers. Oh. Really? Wang Xian chuckled at the sight of their laughter. He moved his body and launched an attack straight ahead. With a leap, he lunged forward with an attack, clenching his dragon claw tightly. Dead ahead, the gang of Donghua sacred sect disciples looked on, still with smiles on their faces. The power of the spirit array was tested personally by their sect leader. No Dan expert could ever think of breaking it. They showed no signs of anxiousness, and their faces remained calm. Bam! When the dragon claw hit the spirit array, the array showed no signs of wavering. Ha! What a futile attempt at using your power. The bald, middle-aged expert witnessed the scene and laughed out arrogantly. Ha ha! Wang Xian looked up and grinned, his eyes sweeping across the entire gang. Kill! Kill! As soon as he finished muttering the word, the spirit array suddenly showed signs of cracking as if a piece of glass was swiftly breaking apart. What? This? The cracks of the spirit array shocked the entire Donghua sacred sect with smiles on their faces froze in an instant. What's this? Old Zhou's eyes shrunk uncontrollably. He astonishingly realized that the strike from the Dragon King moments ago had penetrated the spirit array. The strike penetrating the spirit array happened all too quickly, as if the force had caused time to freeze momentarily before the cracks became visible. Kill! The group of Dragonians alongside Mo Yuan showed an icy glance in their eyes. They wore the abyss masks, and the wings on their backs began to flap as they attacked the Donghua sacred sect disciples at a frightful speed. Their arms were now slightly quivering as they looked at their approaching enemies with horror. No, he is capable of bursting an attack from the budding realm. How can he be that strong? Old Zhou's eyes twitched at the sight of the attacking group of experts from the dragon sect. Seeing the Dragon King had his eyes fixated on him, he was petrified. Run! Right now! In a flash, Old Zhou made the decision to retreat. They were no match for the dragon sect, not with their ability. Without their spirit array, they had completely lost their right to battle. Run for your life. Trembling in fear, the surrounding group of inborn experts from the Donghua sacred sect tried to escape when the Dragonians approached them with murderous looks on their faces. 5 more minutes. Just hang on for another 5 minutes and the reinforcements from the ancestral sect will be here. We will be able to survive by then, the bald, middle-aged expert said with his eyes twitching furiously. Gritting his teeth, he tried to run away. Do you really think you can escape? Mo Yuan said with a cold smile on his face, glaring at the Donghua sacred sect experts. The devil wings on the backs of the masked Dragonians fluttered violently. All of you from the Donghua sacred sect must die. There is no escape for any of you. Bam! The devil wings moved with excitement, exuding a black luster from the wings. The spiritual stone mounted on their devil wings channeled the powers of the wind feather stone, making them feel as light as feathers. With a gentle charge, they were able to increase their speed instantaneously by more than 50%. Chapter 528, You Are a Demon. When the Dragonians triggered the effects of the devil wings, all the experts from Donghua sacred sect could feel a terrifying aura approaching them from behind. Shit! Their wings can greatly increase their speed. Sensing the fast-approaching Dragonian behind him, the bald middle-aged man was flabbergasted. He gritted his teeth, held the Vajra tightly in his hand and turned around forcefully. Among the inborn experts, I have not encountered anyone who is a match for me in Donghua sacred sect. I can still pull one of you to the grave with me. The bald middle-aged man grimaced in fear. The Vajra glowed dazzlingly as he swung down heavily towards a Dragonian. Wang! What? Just as the Vajra was about to land on the Dragonian, an identical Dragonian appeared beside him. This took the bald middle-aged man by surprise as his actions slowed. TSK. A cold snort resounded as the dragon claw of the Dragonian attacked towards the bald middle-aged man. The bald middle-aged man was astonished as he shifted the Vajra across his body. Bam! A Dragonian and an illusory shadow attacked the bald middle-aged man with identical movements, taking the bald middle-aged man by complete surprise. Bam! As the dragon claw swept across the shoulder of the bald middle-aged man, a long wound was torn open instantly. The bald middle-aged man was shocked. At this moment, the attack from the Dragonian fell once again. One strike came after another with immense force. What was most terrifying was still the speed. Within close proximity, the Dragonian could shift his attack easily. Terrifying attacks together with the distractions of the devil's shadow left the bald middle-aged man with no strength to retaliate. Arg! In the end, the bald middle-aged man let out a desperate cry. Arg! At this moment, incessant cries filled the sky. All the Dragonians had the strength to challenge those who were stronger than them. Now that they had the inborn-level devil shadow masks and devil wings as enhancements, the experts from Donghua sacred sect wouldn't be able to stand against them. As for those disciples who had not reached the inborn realm, they were easily slaughtered. All they saw was a devil shadow dashing toward them. The next moment, they would feel vitality quickly leaving their bodies. You! How dare you slaughter the disciples from our Donghua sacred sect? At this moment, old Zhou, who had been standing in the middle, locked down by Wang Xian, had noticed the disciples around him being easily killed. He glowered at Wang Xian with blood-red eyes as he growled. So what if we did? Since your Donghua sacred sect dared to offend the dragon sect, you must have had the understanding that you guys would be killed by us. Wang Xian stared coldly at old Zhou. When he finished his words, he also struck. In that case, I'll see how strong the Dragon King really is. Seeing Wang Xian charging towards him, old Zhou lifted his right hand and a long sword appeared in it. The dullish yellow longsword was incomparably fearsome as old Zhou swung it towards Wang Xian. Rumble. Terrifying cracks extended as the tough floor split rapidly. The edge of the sword went for Wang Xian directly. Wang Xian waved his arm as the cracks extending towards him were dispersed. He smirked and made an instantaneous shift towards old Zhou. Today, you have to die too. When old Zhou heard Wang Xian, his heart skipped a beat. He clenched onto the long sword in his hand tightly, gritted his teeth and roared, "There are only 4 minutes left. You can kill me." Tisk. As I said, it won't take more than a minute. Wang Xian squinted his eyes as he swung his dragon claws towards old Zhou. Although I'm not a match for you, I'll still be able to escape if I want to. Hearing Wang Xian, old Zhou was exceptionally gloomy. He moved and fled immediately. Rumble. However, a huge 2-meter wall rose from the ground behind him all of a sudden. In just an instant, his escape route was sealed. This greatly surprised him. Escape? That's not an option. Wang Xian smiled faintly as his golden claws tore across. How can this be? Aren't you a fire attribute cultivator? Why are you using earth and metal attribute? Seeing Wang Xian's attack, old Zhou was overwhelmed with fear. He instantly tried to dodge to the side. However, the momentary blockage by the stone wall had exhausted all the advantage he had for escaping. The dragon claw grabbed towards old Zhou's head. Old Zhou was prepared for it. He instantly swung the long sword in his hand ruthlessly towards the dragon claw. Boom! Shockwaves from the terrifying clash reverberated and old Zhou pivoted off the terrifying strength to escape. Swish swish swish. However, the trees before him started growing and wrapping towards his body. This frightened old Zhou as he swung his long swords towards the surrounding trees. While he was distracted from chopping the trees, a terrifying dragon claw penetrated his body. You are a demon. Feeling his body being pierced through, old Zhou's eyes were filled with desperation. He turned around and looked fearfully at Wang Xian. The source of the fear came from the bottom of his heart. He had not experienced this, even from his sect leader. Creepy attacks and the ability to use multiple attributes. He wasn't a human. He was a demon. Nope. I'm a divine dragon. When Wang Xian's final 5 words reached him, his vision was starting to fade. Bam! A Dan realm expert and the supreme elder of Donghua sacred sect had fallen to the ground. At this moment, Mo Yuan reported, Dragon King, all the disciples of Donghua sacred sect have been killed without exception. Wang Xian nodded his head. 50 Dragonians against 15 inborn experts. That should have been complete domination. In a one-on-one situation, a Dragonian would still be able to kill an inborn expert within a minute. The several times difference in strength would only make it quicker. The reinforcements of the Donghua sacred sect will probably be here in 4 minutes. Wang Xian looked around him. He had no intentions of looking for spiritual stones. He turned to Mo Yuan and said plainly, didn't Donghua sacred sect upload this incident on the Underworld website? In that case, let's add in the outcome for them. Yes, Dragon King. Mo Yuan chuckled. He took a phone from one of the disciples of Donghua sacred sect, looked across with contempt and took several photos. After which, he entered the Underworld website and saw the hottest thread started by that disciple of Donghua sacred sect. Trapped beast. Slaughtering the dragons. Our Dragon King has made it clear that it won't stop till one party perishes. Today's just the beginning. With roughly 20 words and no further elaborations, Mo Yuan appended a few additional pictures. Those were pictures of the corpses of disciples, inborn experts, and the supreme elder of Donghua sacred sect. After posting the comment, Mo Yuan nodded his head at Wang Xian. Let's go. I'll leave this surprise for Donghua sacred sect. Wang Xian commented plainly. Taking flight, they headed back towards Rivertown. Ha! Who would have expected the foolish dragon sect would dare to barge into the spiritual or mine today? Even the heavens are helping us. Soon after Wang Xian left with the Dragonians, a peal of unruly laughter reverberated from afar. Chapter 529, Rather offend the king of Hades than the Dragon King. With much excitement, Nya Wuya rushed over from the Donghua sacred sect along with its group of top experts. 50 experts from the Dragon sect had been trapped by the spirit array while on their way to the Donghua spiritual or mine. Nya Wuya and the gang got rather worked up when they received the news. The Dragon sect and Dragon King were asking for it. To be stuck within the spirit array of the Donghua spiritual or spelled doom for the entire Dragon sect, as it would then make them an easy kill. Yet, in spite of their disregard on the surface, they were still met with a tinge of trepidation when it came to the Dragon sect. The Dragon King had defeated the Lord of Sea Serpent Island, and his Dragon sect proceeded to wipe the remains out. All of which had displayed the prowess of the Dragon sect. And while they were also the formidable Donghua sacred sect, they did not have the prowess to annihilate the Dragon sect with the mere deployment of a few members. This was especially so given the number of inborn experts within the Dragon sect, 50 to be exact. The figure was enough to cause massive trouble for the Donghua sacred sect. But even this trouble would pass now that the Dragon sect had been trapped in the spirit array. Today spells a good omen. Our sect leader will definitely be able to slay Emperor Qi of Diabolism tomorrow, an elder said to Nya Wuya with a wide smile across his face. Given the prowess of the sect leader, killing Emperor Qi is going to be a piece of cake. Nya Wuya responded while his lips arched upwards. We've arrived at the mine Oregon. Come on, let's wipe out the Dragon sect. Nya Wuya exclaimed as he looked ahead. Picking up speed, he walked on with overflowing joy. Beside him were 3 supreme elders from the Donghua sacred sect, and more than 100 of their inborn experts followed behind. For the sake of annihilating the Dragon sect, all the top-notch experts within Donghua sacred sect had been deployed. Old Zhou, we're here. From a distance of more than 1,000 meters away came Nya Wuya's bellowing laughter as he shouted ahead. Eh. The figures did not respond to Nya Wuya's call as the group approached at lightning speed. This made Nya Wuya frown in bewilderment before his confusion was overtaken by an ominous premonition. There's bloodthirst. Suddenly, one of the elders yelped with locked brows. Oh no, there are dead bodies ahead, he shouted after looking ahead. What? Don't tell me, the crowd muttered upon sensing a bad omen. Everyone began to accelerate, and hastened over to the mine Oregon. From a distance of about 1,000 meters away, their faces darkened instantly upon the sight up front. In fact, their faces were beyond gloomy. They shuddered at the numerous dead bodies of their once acquaintance. Old Zhou, an elder, shrieked with bloodshot eyes as he eyed the area beneath a nearby tree. With one leap, he arrived right beside the dead body and cried out. What? To think even the Supreme Elder is, the inborn experts gasped in shock. They met their counterparts with eyes full of trepidation. A Supreme Elder had been killed along with 15 inborn experts. The Donghua sacred sect had never incurred such losses in the past 50 years. The spirit array has been compromised. To think, the spirit array has been compromised, an elder screeched with a burdened expression as he glanced in the direction of the spirit array. To think the spirit array has been breached. And all it took was 10 minutes, a mere 10 minutes, a voice gasped. It's a form of antagonizing. It's blatant what the Dragon sect is doing now, antagonizing us. Of all days, they chose to do so today in order to spite us explicitly. An inborn expert let out a deep growl. Even the 100-odd experts from the Donghua sacred sect looked on with ghastly expressions. This was beyond antagonizing, this was a tight slap to the face. What shocked them the most was the fact that even their supreme elder, an unparalleled expert of the Dan realm, had been killed as well. Dan realm experts were few and far between. Needless to say, killing them was even more unimaginable. Nya Wuya took in one deep breath. With bloodshot eyes, he let out a growl to the skies. We, Donghua Sacred Sect, are at extreme odds with you, Dragon King and Dragon Sect. As all experts from the Donghua Sacred Sect arrived at the Donghua Spiritual or Mine, the online thread which Mo Yuan had posted went viral all over the Underworld forum. This came 5 minutes after the thread posted by disciples of the Donghua Sacred Sect had caused a wave-like sensation amongst all the martial artists. While they were still busy discussing the annihilation of the Dragon Sect, the emergence of a new post brought a twist to the outcome. At the sight of the numerous dead bodies of the Donghua Sacred Sect members, everyone who saw the post gasped in utter shock. This outfit is the attire of the Donghua attendants. The attendants of the Donghua Sacred Sect are all inborn experts. To think they've been slain. So many to add. There's too many, more than a dozen. Those are disciples of the Donghua Sacred Sect. More than 100 of them have been killed. This. The photo of this elder has been posted individually. Perhaps this elder is more esteemed than the rest. Goodness, wasn't it just earlier when the Donghua Sacred Sect was about to annihilate the Dragon Sect? Just what exactly happened? Goodness, just what exactly happened? Earlier on, the Donghua Sacred Sect was still talking about wiping out the Dragon Sect. How is it that more than a dozen inborn experts from the Donghua Sacred Sect have since been killed within split seconds? The martial artists gagged in shock and fear as they scrolled through the various photos. It seems, then, that there had been a major twist to the outcome. The Donghua Sacred Sect had not annihilated the Dragon Sect. Instead, the Dragon Sect had killed 100-odd disciples of Donghua Sacred Sect, along with more than a dozen of its inborn experts. Shocking, simply shocking. Yet, just as everyone was buzzing away in a heated discussion, one of them recognized the elder who had been accorded with an individual photo. This was the Supreme Elder of the Donghua Sacred Sect. An awe-inspiring existence of the Dan realm. An unparalleled expert of his time. Everyone gasped upon the confirmation of the news. To think that the Supreme Elder of the Donghua Sacred Sect had been killed. While everyone eventually came to gradual terms with the news, a post made by an individual sent the entire underworld into a whirl of deep thought and shock. Within the entire underworld, the existence of an unparalleled expert is considered top-notch while their demise is even rarer. To the point where there hasn't even been one within the past decade and beyond. Yet, just recently, these unparalleled experts have fallen one by one. These include Ancestor Qiao of the Qiao clan, 2 Supreme Elders from the Medical Saint Sect, the Supreme Elder of the Xingling Sect, Lord Ossian of the Remains, as well as the Supreme Elder of the Donghua Sacred Sect. Of these 6 unparalleled experts, 5 have died at the hands of the Dragon King of the Dragon Sect. As everyone went through the statistics, they came to a sudden realization which sent chills down their spines. Indeed. Other than the death of a Supreme Elder from the Xingling Sect, which diabolism was responsible for, the demise of the other unparalleled experts of the Dan realm were all attributed to the Dragon King. In less than half a year, 5 unparalleled experts had died at the hands of the Dragon King. Terminator of the unparalleled experts. This Dragon King is simply invincible. Regardless of who they are or their prowess, all those who antagonized him have been killed. To fight till one perishes. It seems that the Dragon Sect has really gone all out with the Donghua Sacred Sect till one perishes. Killing an unparalleled expert along with a dozen or so inborn experts from the Donghua Sacred Sect. It's definitely bloodshed this time. It seems like either one or the other between the Donghua Sacred Sect and the Dragon Sect will have to perish. But even if they can annihilate the Dragon Sect, the Donghua Sacred Sect is bound to suffer massive losses. No one saw this coming. To think that the Dragon King and his Dragon Sect have wiped out a huge number of experts from the Donghua Sacred Sect after annihilating the remains. Sigh, the acts of this Dragon King are the Dragon King's style. I don't care if you're from the Orthodox sects or diabolism. Just don't antagonize me. For those who do, death shall await you. Rather offend the king of Hades than the Dragon King. Chapter 530, The Arrival of the Golden Swordfish Race. The entire underworld was in a frenzy after the dragon sect annihilated a group of experts from the Donghua sacred sect. Everyone could only heave a sigh helplessly. The major battle between the orthodox sects and diabolism was just about to erupt. The Dragon King annihilating the remains was undoubtedly an exceptional piece of good news. However, he had also killed a group of experts from Donghua sacred sect, denting the overall strength of the alliance of the orthodox sections. We could only pin our hopes on the battle tomorrow between the sect leader of Donghua sacred sect, Nia Wushuang, and Emperor Qi from diabolism. This battle will dictate the fate of the entire underworld. I really hope that sect leader Nia Wushuang will win. In this case, diabolism would have no choice but to go into seclusion once again. At night, the attention of the martial artists in the underworld had shifted from the Dragon King of the Dragon sect to the major battle the next day. Everyone was gloomy and feeling a little worried. Since Emperor Qi of diabolism had dared to challenge sect leader Nia Wushuang, it would only mean that Emperor Qi had a strength that was close to Nia Wushuang. In the major battle the next day, no one could guarantee that Nia Wushuang would emerge victorious. After all, the name of diabolism still instilled fear in the minds of many people. The strongest expert from the underworld, sect leader Nia Wushuang from Donghua sacred sect versus the strongest expert from diabolism, sect leader Nia Wushuang from Devil Corpse Palace. When Wang Xian arrived at Rivertown and saw the messages on the underworld forum, he couldn't help but show a little hesitation. All the martial artists in the entire underworld would likely be going to watch the life and death battle between the strongest existences. Let's go take a look tomorrow. A battle of this level isn't common, and I can also catch a glimpse of the strength of diabolism. Wang Xian thought to himself. He naturally wouldn't skip such a grand occasion. Bzz bzz. At this moment, Wang Xian's phone rang. When he picked it up, he was surprised to learn that it was from Mo Qinglong. What happened? Wang Xian accepted the call without hesitation. Dragon King, Prime Minister Turtle and the other experts have been revived. Mo Qinglong's voice sounded from the other end of the phone. This was a pleasant surprise for Wang Xian. They are revived. What is their strength level now? Wang Xian asked in anticipation. Considering that they were gathering energy for revival in the dragon transformation pool, their strength would likely experience a substantial boost. Prime Minister Turtle and the other leaders have reached the budding realm. As for the rest, they are largely in the Dan realm and Inborn realm. Mo Qinglong answered. Budding realm. Wang Xian's eyes beamed with excitement. Now that Prime Minister Turtle, Roving Heavens, Roving Yiksha and the rest had reached the budding realm, it would mean that there were roughly a dozen odd budding realm existences among the Dragon Palace members. A dozen odd level 12 existences and a group of Dan realm experts was sufficiently strong. Wang Xian's eyes gleamed with agitation. With this level of strength, not many forces could stand up against them, even on the international stage. At the very least, all the forces he encountered in Dubai previously wouldn't be a match for him. How did the guidance of the Golden Swordfish race go? Asked Wang Xian. Dragon King, they have no issues with interacting with humans. Moreover, they have high intelligence. It shouldn't be a problem if you want to send them onto land. Mo Qinglong answered. Wang Xian nodded his head, hesitating for a moment before continuing. You can come back now. Bring the Golden Swordfish race with you. Yes, Dragon King. We should be able to reach Rivertown by 2 a.m. Mo Qinglong nodded his head. Wang Xian hung up the phone and knocked on the table with his hand. The Golden Swordfish race could take on human form. Wang Xian was prepared to let them handle some forces on the seas, starting from the disordered region. Besides that, he was prepared to gather resources for the upgrade of the Dragon Palace. Among the Golden Swordfish race, there was a level 12 budding realm existence, 5 at the Dan realm, and the rest were at the Inborn realm. In total, there were over 150 of them. This force was sufficiently strong. Looking at the time, Wang Xian noticed that it was already past 10 p.m. He hesitated for a moment before walking towards the villa. When Wang Xian entered the villa, he instantly picked up Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue's presents. What should we do, Sister Qingyue? Now that the foreign girl is acting like this every day, what should we do? She's trying to get on our good books every day. TSK. She's even a princess from Dubai. However, it still feels pretty good to have a princess trying to curry favor from us. What's the matter, Shuqing? Are you going to give in? How can that be possible? I would never give in. TSK. It's all Xiao Xian's fault. Oh, right. This scumbag has been running out every day recently. Do you think he will bring another girl back in a few days? The two of them were conversing in a room. When Guan Shuqing made that statement, Wang Xian could feel both of them sitting up on the bed instantly. That's a real possibility. All dragons are lustful and this is fully on display with him. Lan Qingyue gritted her teeth. The sounds of her teeth grinding gave Wang Xian a chill down his spine. If he dares to bring another girl back, we shall not talk to him. Not for eternity. Guan Shuqing grumbled furiously. Wang Xian, who was standing outside, couldn't help but rub his nose. He hesitated for a moment before tiptoeing towards their room. While the two of them were having an emotional conversation, Wang Xian appeared before the door and removed all his clothes. Hello, I'm back. Wang Xian pushed open the door, shouting while naked and pouncing onto the bed directly. You! Guan Shuqing and Lan Qingyue, who had been chatting, were stunned. Get out of here. I'm not going to. Scumbag. You are a pervert. Yes, yes. I'm a pervert. You. Woo woo. Wang Xian enjoyed the great feelings of being conquered. Scram. While he was reliving the excitement 3 hours later, he was kicked off the bed. Looking at the two furious girls, Wang Xian walked out with a sheepish smile. Soon. Soon. Everything will be resolved soon. If it isn't this time, it will be the next. Wang Xian mumbled to himself. Returning to the floating island, he waited for Mo Qinglong's arrival. Currently, Wang Xian wouldn't even feel the slightest bit of fatigue even if he did not sleep for 10 full days. 2 a.m. A boat approached the floating island slowly. On the island, figure after figure jumped off the boat. Over 100 burly figures that were over 2 meters tall had landed on the island. They looked around the island curiously. Dragon King. When Wang Xian walked over, everyone went on their knees and greeted him respectfully. You may rise. Wang Xian looked towards Mo Qinglong before turning to the Golden Swordfish race. Your name will be Roving Sword from here onwards. You will be responsible to lead the entire Golden Swordfish race. Wang Xian gave the leader of the Golden Swordfish race a name. They were covered in a layer of golden scales and held incomparably sharp longswords in their hands. The shape was slightly different from typical longswords. The golden glow of their bodies also felt extremely sharp. Their longswords were connected to their arms. These were the sharp weapons they'd had on their heads previously. The might of these longswords would differ based on their strength level. They could match weapons of a similar level and were insanely powerful. Chapter 531, The Fearless. 1 budding realm expert, 5 Dan realm experts, and 150 inborn experts. The scales on their bodies were the best protection and swords in their hands the ultimate weapons. With these, the golden swordfish appeared to be pinnacle inborn experts armed with inborn spiritual weapons and a similar level of armor. "Bring the golden swordfish with us tomorrow," proclaimed Wang Xian as he let out a glimpse of a smile. With the golden swordfish adding to the strength of Dragon Sect, that would make up a good 200 inborn experts, which far exceeded the strength of Donghua Sacred Sect. Although this formation may be slightly inferior to the alliance of orthodox sects, it was definitely strong enough to strike awe across the underworld. "Fearless I shall be, tomorrow." Wang Xian smirked. All the while, Nia Wushuang was the main thing stopping him from confronting Donghua Sacred Sect. Based on his estimation, Nia Wushuang should be at the level of the budding realm by now. Still, his actual power at that level remained unknown. If his power were to be on par with Wang Xian, then Dragon Sect would not have any edge over Donghua Sacred Sect. However, with the golden swordfish on my side, be it Donghua Sacred Sect, or any other sect of diabolism, I'll whack the hell out of you people. A tinge of gladness was seen in his eyes. Showdown Day. Peak of Huashan. As the sun rose, today marked an important day for the entire underworld, as it concerned the future of the underworld. Families and ancestral sects from all over the country flocked to Huashan. Unlike the outstanding young heroes competition, today's battle concerned everyone's lives. With all the martial artists making their way to Huashan, one could expect no less than hundreds of thousands of martial artists from the underworld to gather here. This is not a word of exaggeration. I wonder if the Dragon King will turn up for the duel today. I'd think so. But I'd rather he didn't. It seems that something terrible is going to happen with him around. I don't think he will go, since he has offended both the orthodox sects and diabolism after annihilating the remains and several experts from the Donghua Sacred Sect a couple of days ago. He would be in trouble if Nia Wushuang and Emperor Qi decided to get even with him. With the Dragon King's unpredictable behavior, one can't be too sure. All martial artist families had gathered in the Jiang city, heading towards Huashan as their destination. Old Shui and the Ren and Duan families were exchanging conversations. The Dragon King came from Rivertown, and they were also the ones who had witnessed his rise. Nonetheless, never in their wildest dreams did they expect that the young lad back then would make his mark on the underworld today. Old Shui, in particular, had emotions that were even more stirred up for the fact that the Dragon King had unblocked his meridians for him. Due to this, he could advance to half-step to Inborn Realm, which was considered to be rather remarkable in the underworld. "Do you have any idea whether the Dragon King will be going?" Old Shui asked Ren family head after moments of hesitation. All eyes were on Old Shui, as they knew very well that he and the Dragon King were on good terms. Moreover, the Dragon King must have played a part in Old Shui's advancement. Otherwise, they did not believe an elder martial artist could have skipped a few levels within a year. "Yes, he'll be there," muttered Old Shui, with much bitterness. Upon hearing the much-expected answer, the martial artists shook their heads slowly. One can only hope that nothing too disastrous will happen. The fate of the underworld lies in the hands of this battle. Just as Dragon Sect announced its establishment at Huashan, the taking of the underworld by Dragon Sect shall happen right here as well. Looking at the mountains in the distance, a trace of arrogance flashed across Wang Xian's face. With 50 disciples of the Dragon Sect and 156 members from the Golden Swordfish behind Wang Xian, the group hurried to Huashan at lightning speed. From afar, Wang Xian saw many martial artists gathered at Huashan, and the number was a good dozen times more compared to the outstanding young heroes competition. Each and every martial artist was armed with weapons, fully prepared for a great battle. Huashan was not only expecting martial artists from the underworld today, but those from diabolism as well. Although it had been set that the orthodox sects and diabolism would not fight against each other on this very day, no one could be sure of that. "Let's head over," Wang Xian commanded. With his 200 men, Wang Xian dismounted in a quiet corner and walked gradually towards the entrance of Huashan. Who do you guys think is likely to emerge as the winner for today's duel? Undoubtedly, our sect leader Nyawuya. He topped the underworld as the strongest expert half a century ago, and he took the lives of numerous experts then. Our victory in that battle 50 years ago was owed largely to him. Thus, history shall repeat itself today. Emperor Qi of the Devil Corpse Palace is equally competent. He must have been very confident with himself to have challenged sect leader Nyawuya. We shall give our support to sect leader Nyawuya. Emperor Qi from Diabolism shall be killed. That's right. We shall support sect leader Nyawuya. Many discussions were going on in the surroundings as all of Huashan was swamped with martial artists. Wang Xian was able to see groups of sect disciples dressed in uniform attire, not too long into his walk. With a faint smile on his face, Wang Xian glanced briefly at them while continuing on his way ahead. Hey, that's Dragon's sect and the Dragon King, someone exclaimed, drawing the attention of all martial artists to look at Wang Xian in astonishment. To think the king of Dragon's sect had the nerve to come. That's truly dauntless of him. Precisely, he still has the guts to be here after beheading so many experts of Donghua sacred sect just yesterday. Isn't he afraid that sect leader Nye Wushuang will take revenge? And Diabolism is not going to let him off lightly for killing the remains either. It's daring of him to be here. Look, the Dragon King has many more followers than before. Are they the new disciples of the sect? Why is it that I cannot sense their inner power? Besides, they are not wearing any masks or wings. They must be the latest disciples groomed by Dragon's sect. Wang Xian and his followers had instantly become the center of attention after making their appearance, as everyone was making comments discreetly about them. With the Dragon King gaining, the greatest slayer of unparalleled experts, as his latest title, one would refrain from making comments about him openly. Otherwise, one could end up being finished off by him at any time. The Dragon sect was said to be an unkind sect, as it had been perceived as a sacred sect of both righteousness and evil. Very soon, the news of the Dragon King being here with his group of disciples at Huashan went around. Many sects and families were slightly surprised by their showing up. Let's hope the Dragon sect and Dragon King will not bring any misfortune to us at Huashan today. Misfortune bestowed in the presence of the Dragon King. This is, however, unlikely to happen today. With powers of the entire underworld and Diabolism coming together, the Dragon King is expected to take a low profile. Chapter 532, Annihilating the Arrogant. Move aside. Move aside. At the entrance to Huashan, the inborn experts of the sacred clan, Dongmen clan, shouted as they saw Wang Xian leading his disciples over. The surrounding crowd was alarmed by the shouts of the Dongmen clan, and they turned around to take a look. Dragon King of the Dragon sect. Move aside. Move aside. Even the sacred clan, Dongmen, moved aside immediately. What are first-class forces like you guys still standing there for? As the shouts reverberated, a path towards the entrance of Huashan opened up as the crowd watched the Dragon sect enter Huashan. All the martial artists had their eyes on the people from the Dragon sect. They were baffled. Seeing what was happening around, Wang Xian revealed a faint smile. This path was built from the bloodshed he had caused. His name and its authority were established through countless massacres. Even Sacred Clan had to move aside when they encountered Dragon sect. Wang Xian walked ahead emotionlessly. Behind him, different clans and sects discussed softly as they could only look at their backs. The battle on Huashan would be at the highest peak of Huashan, which was located in the middle region of Huashan. In that place, the highest peak was over 2,000 meters tall. The battle would be held there. There were a dozen odd entrances to the highest peak of Huashan. Wang Xian walked at the front of the pack. The martial artists in front of and behind him were at least 100 meters away. Diabolism. Those are people from Diabolism. Just as Wang Xian led the disciples of Dragon Sect to a forked road, he heard shouting from his side. Hee hee. Their blood is so fresh. I really hope the major battle will be over soon. After that, we can drink and suck their fresh blood to our heart's content. It will be soon. After Emperor Qi defeats Nie Wushuang, the major battle will begin. We have been lying low for 50 years. Now is the time to show our fangs. Hee hee. A few arrogant voices resounded. Ah! Bugs! Bug! Mum, these blood-red bugs. Crimson bug, what do you guys want? At this moment, a sharp shriek pierced the atmosphere. Don't be so anxious, girl. The major battle hasn't started. Diabolism follows the rules closely. Hee hee. Don't be such a coward. Wang Xian walked forward and saw martial artists from Diabolism, who were wearing red outfits, teasing the group at the other end. Under their loose red outfits, one could still see something wiggling and moving. A short distance away, a girl stood behind another lady. Her face was as white as snow. Before the girl, there were a dozen odd savage-looking bugs. These bugs had razor-sharp mouthparts. Some of them had countless legs while others were wiggling around. All the bugs shared a common trait, and that was that they were entirely red with a stench of blood around them. Crimson Bug. An elite sect below the 4 strongest devil sections. They have a strength that can equal a sacred sect in the underworld. All the cultivators in Crimson Bug are exceptionally gruesome. They breed bugs with their bodies. The stronger these bugs are, the stronger they are. Since the remains have been annihilated, they are widely regarded as having the capabilities to take their place. A few middle-aged men standing by the side commented. When their eyes fell on the bloody bugs on the floor, their faces paled. The cultivation arts of those in Diabolism were all weird. Seeing that the group ahead had stopped moving, Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and shouted, "If you guys aren't moving, move aside. There are bugs ahead." Upon hearing the voice behind her, the girl that was frightened answered with a weak voice. Huh. When the rest of the crowd ahead heard Wang Xian, they were alarmed and turned their heads around curiously. They looked baffled while staring at Wang Xian and the group. Don't recognize me? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and his attention fell on their outfit. A group of martial artists from second-class forces. They seemed to be from the same family or clan. In the underworld, all first-class and saint-class forces would have recognized him. Only second-class forces and weaker forces might not recognize him. Also, Roving Sword of the Golden Swordfish race and 5 other Golden Swordfish members stood in a row with Mo Qinglong and Wang Xian. Their 2-meter-tall statures completely blocked their sight of the disciples of Dragon Sect, who were wearing masks and devil wings. Therefore, these people didn't recognize Wang Xian. Bugs? Wang Xian chuckled and walked straight ahead. When the members of those second-class forces saw Wang Xian walking towards them, they hesitated for a moment before moving aside rapidly. If there are bugs, just kill them. Seeing a dozen odd blood-red bugs the size of one's middle finger on the path ahead, Wang Xian waved his arm casually. A ball of flames shrouded forward. Huh! A sharp noise sounded and the dozen-odd bloody bugs jumped towards a middle-aged man with incredible speed. Wang Xian smirked with contempt. Screech! 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 In the next instant, the flames fell on the bloody bugs and horrifying cries could be heard. After a brief moment, they were reduced to ashes. How dare you kill my bloody bugs? You must be tired of living. Seeing his bloody bugs being annihilated instantly, the middle-aged man growled savagely. He turned around and stared at Wang Xian. At this moment, the bloody bugs within his body seemed to be able to sense his fury. 2 bloody bugs the size of a fist wiggled out of his sleeves. These 2 bugs only had one blood-red eye and were staring coldly at Wang Xian. So what? Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man as his lips curved into a smile. Contempt was written all over his face. Alright, Baoji. We have a promise with the orthodox sects that we will not start a conflict here. Just remember him. When the major battle begins, let your bloody bugs make a sumptuous meal of him. The old man by the side looked at Wang Xian plainly before reminding the middle-aged man. Hee hee. Brat. I'll remember your face. Don't be anxious. I'll be going after you in a few days. I'll breed more bugs in your body to replace the 13 you have killed. Hee hee. I'm not in a rush and you shouldn't be either. The middle-aged man stared coldly at Wang Xian. His clothes were tumbling and he looked horrifying. Several disciples of the second-class families around paled at the sight of that. How unruly and arrogant. Wang Xian looked at the middle-aged man and showed a faint smile. Hee hee. Now that you have become my prey, eat more over the next few days. When the major battle between the orthodox sects and devil's sects begins, I will use your corpse to feed my babies. The middle-aged man smiled creepily, revealing his blood-red teeth. A pungent stench of blood was surrounding him. Several members of those second-class forces took several steps back in fear. A bunch of cowards. Your easy and comfortable lives will be coming to an end soon. Enjoy the last few days of your lives. Seeing them retreating, a young man remarked with ridicule. You guys are really noisy. It would seem that I have annihilated too few people from diabolism. There are actually people who can't recognize me. Wang Xian looked across the crowd of more than 100 members from the Crimson Bug. He continued with an emotionless tone, kill all of them. Chapter 533, Time to Whack Everyone. Kill all of them. His emotionless voice was heard everywhere, hitting the surrounding second-class forces, who displayed startled looks. To their surprise, the forces that had been following behind Wang Xian halted when the dragon sect came to a stop. They were listening attentively to the conversation ahead when they noticed a plain voice. All of them were shocked. The group of experts from Dongmen clan, who was the closest group, could not help but twitch their lips. I wonder which fellow doesn't want his life. I think we should stay a distance away from it. It seems unsafe to stay too close to Dragon Sect. Some of the inborn experts from Dongmen clan were discussing softly. They were terrified, as this fierce man just kill anyone as he liked. Today was the battling day between sect leader Nye Wushuang and Emperor Qi of Diabolism. Both of them had made a pact that no conflict was allowed. Donghua Sacred Sect had also issued orders that no martial artists were allowed to strike today. Since Donghua Sacred Sect and the alliance of the orthodox sects had taken their stance, who dared to make their moves? This was simply a suicide move. But clearly, Dragon Sect was not bound by this rule. Kill us all. The bunch of people from Crimson Bug was stunned by Wang Xian's words. They stared hard at Wang Xian, revealing a creepy look. Kill us all. Hayak, what the? Before they could finish their sentence, 20 devil figures flashed out from behind Wang Xian, launching their attack at a domineering speed. How dare you break the rules? Go to hell. The three old men who stood at the forefront of Crimson Bug let out a creepy shriek when they saw the Black Shadow's attacks. Boom boom. At this time, the score of Dragonians released their daunting oppression with terrifying dragon claws, raking at the experts of Crimson Bug. Damn it! The group of 100-odd Crimson Bug people did not come with the ancestral sections. They were the first batch to reach this place. Hence, there were only 3 inborn-level Crimson Bug experts. Burst! Crimson Bug was appalled by the domineering aura from the Dragonians. Their oversized clothes ballooned and flapped as thickly dotted Crimson Bugs began crawling towards the Dragonians. Boom boom. The massive Crimson Bugs exploded out, charging at the Dragonians, filled with a scary corrosive toxin. Humph. The Dragonians displayed only disdainful looks as they shook their bodies, releasing intense devil aura while blocking out the explosive blood. They racked their dragon claws across. Hiss. Arg. Screams of panic and desperation were heard as the disciples of Crimson Bug got torn apart. All the Crimson Bugs that were nurturing within the bodies let out a fearful cry. How dare an orthodox sect break the rules? Damn you! An inborn expert from Crimson Bug screamed with a scary and malevolent face after witnessing hundreds of disciples almost getting wiped out. A crimson insect flew into the sky and exploded in the air, 1,000 meters high. Boom! The crimson glow lit up the sky, as that bug was a type of signal bug. I'm not from the alliance of the orthodox sections. Why do I care? Upon hearing that inborn expert of Crimson Bug, Wang Xian sneered. Arg! Before the 3 inborn experts could say anything, they were slaughtered by 3 Dragonians. Eek, eek! The hideous Crimson Bugs were still found all over the ground, letting out cries of horror. Beside them lay the corpses of their owners. 20 seconds was all it took to exterminate the hundreds of disciples of Crimson Bug, who had been clamoring in arrogance not long ago. They couldn't resist or struggle. Several second-class forces beside Wang Xian were stupefied by what they saw. Dragon Sect, it's the Dragon Sect. He's the Dragon King. A girl, by the side, was crying out in surprise and excitement. Come here, sooner. A lady who was standing beside her quickly pulled her to one side as she looked at Wang Xian with consternation. Dragon Sect, Dragon King. Other disciples of second-class forces also staggered back in trepidation. Reputation was all that mattered. Now that they had witnessed the Dragon King of Dragon Sect killing a bunch of people from Crimson Bug, all of them were shaking in their boots. Dragon King. An old man took a deep breath and lowered his chin with his fist cupped and a pale-looking face. Dragon King. The rest of the people quickly bowed with their hands cupped. That girl, who had been looking at Wang Xian with curiosity, was pressed down by the lady beside her. Let's go. Wang Xian nodded his head plainly. With a swing, a flame began to burn away all the Crimson Bugs on the ground to the right. Who dares to attack the disciples of Crimson Bug? A tyrannical roar came before Wang Xian could even take 2 steps. He saw red figures flitting towards their direction from the right rear side. Wang Xian whirled around and stopped moving as he looked over with a beaming face. There were thousands of people with an old man who had an odd-looking bug that looked like a facehugger on his head. The bug looked extremely scary and hideous and was slapping on the top of the head. The more frightening thing was his face, as it was covered in tiny and thickly dotted little bugs twisting around. It looked extremely horrifying. The old man wore an extremely oversized crimson robe with great terror hidden inside. Standing behind the old man were inborn experts of Crimson Bug, who looked ugly and hideous. When the group arrived, all the people from the second-class forces gasped. They started to shiver. If the war between the good and the bad break out, they really had no idea how to fight this bunch of scary people. The incoming rush of pungent blood already made them sick, and all they could do was watch these people blankly. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows as he looked at this bunch of people. With a cold gaze swept at that old man, he said indifferently, "Not attack, wipe out. Look at the floor. Those are their ashes." Her. That old man was slightly taken aback as he traced the floor with eyes, which were slowly turning red. There seemed to be scary bugs swimming in his eyeballs. "Great, how dare you kill my disciples? Since you broke the rules first, I'll give you a bloodbath." The old man opened his mouth wide enough for one to see worms wriggling inside it. He was a worm man. What's going on? Why did the group stop again? It's Crimson Bug. Just now, the Dragon King seemed to have annihilated them, and now, the experts of Crimson Bug have arrived. The crimson bug of diabolism is really courting their own doom. I'm happy to see this though. The people from diabolism are really ignorant. How did they not recognize the Dragon King from Dragon Sect? This is getting exciting. The crimson bug of diabolism is going to get exterminated. I'm sure. How can the person who offended Dragon Sect stay alive? It's just a mere crimson bug. The sacred clans and ancestral sects commented with thrill and anticipation. They had been following behind Dragon Sect at 100 meters away, wiping the sweat away from their foreheads. Chapter 534, Crimson Bug Annihilated. Wherever the Dragon Sect went, there would be bloodshed. The crowd from diabolism was arrogant and domineering. After being through the incident with the remains, Wang Xian didn't have a good impression of diabolism. Now that the disciples of Crimson Bug were acting pompously and arrogantly before him, he would naturally not let them off. When it was time to kill, he would do as such. Wang Xian didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt for killing the people from diabolism. Similarly, he wouldn't feel any guilt for killing his enemies. As for those good-natured people, or innocent people or forces, Wang Xian would not kill rampantly. All along, Wang Xian had adopted an attitude of not offending others if they didn't offend him in the underworld. If others offended him, he would just have to kill them. Naturally, the members of the Crimson Bug before him looked savage and even a little perverse. In Wang Xian's view, they couldn't even be considered humans. Seeing how Wang Xian casually pointed to the ashes of the disciples from Crimson Bug while replying, the second-class forces around him couldn't help but feel their mouths twitch. They looked to the 1,000+ experts from Crimson Bug and staggered back in fear. They were afraid and terrorized. After moving back 100 meters, they finally stopped ahead of the Dongmen clan. At this moment, they heaved a long sigh. What's happening? The experts of the Crimson Bug are all here? As part of the mountain was blocking their sight, they couldn't see what was happening to their right. When an inborn expert from Dongmen clan saw the second-class forces retreating towards them in horror, he immediately asked this. The experts from the Crimson Bug are all here. There are over 1,000 of them and they are truly terrifying, an old man answered, speaking to the inborn expert from Dongmen clan respectfully. They are really here. Ha! Great! Another devil sect will be annihilated. When that inborn expert heard the old man, he couldn't help but grin. The crowd behind him also revealed smiles. Offending the Dragon Sect? These people must be tired of living. Hadn't they heard of the saying, you'd rather offend Hades than offending the Dragon King? As the people ahead had stopped, those at the back could only do the same. Some were rushing the people ahead of them impatiently. As a result, the news of the clash between the Dragon King of Dragon Sect and the Crimson Bug quickly spread. Crimson Bug must be tired of living. Music to my ears. The Dragon King is going to annihilate another devil sect. The Dragon Sect is really high profile. If they really annihilate the Crimson Bug, all of diabolism will probably be after Dragon Sect. It isn't just diabolism, Donghua Sacred Sect will probably go after them too. He's too fearless. The crowd behind discussed while, ahead of them, Wang Xian looked to the 1,000-odd people from Crimson Bug with a radiant smile. Kill all of us? Give it a try. I do hope that the Crimson Bug has the capability to do so. As he spoke, he turned his body slightly to face the entire crowd from Crimson Bug. Just to let you have a good death, I'll tell you that the one who will be killing all of you is the Dragon Sect. Kill! Wang Xian ordered coldly. This time, it wasn't just the 50 Dragonians who struck. The 150 golden swordfish also struck. Roving Sword didn't make a move. This was because they weren't qualified for him to take action. If he really participated, he would finish off all the enemies in a single strike. Wang Xian would still like to see the true strength of the golden swordfish race. Kill! When Wang Xian made his order, all the Dragonians and the golden swordfish race moved. In an instant, terrifying killing aura filled the entire sky. Energy of the Gold Summit, devilish aura, and unparalleled killing intent surprised even the people 100 meters behind. What terrifying auras! Retreat! We've got to move back further. Those from Dongmen clan who hadn't reached the inborn level paled. The experts from Dongmen clan shouted immediately as they moved back rapidly. The auras from more than 150 inborn experts together and 5 Dan realm experts could even suffocate an inborn expert. They didn't dare to witness the fight at all as they rushed back in horror. Obviously, when Wang Xian made his last statement regarding who would be killing them, the eyes of the old man at the forefront of the Crimson Bug group widened. Fear instantly gripped him. When he saw those horrifying figures charging towards him, he instantly felt as though he was in an ice cellar. His body was shivering and cold. Oh gosh! All those behind him are inborn experts. How can this be? And those 5 at the front, those are Dan realm experts. They are experts at the same level as me. How can this be? How can there be so many unparalleled experts? As one of the vice leaders of Crimson Bug and a Dan realm unparalleled expert, this was the first time he felt fear. When Wang Xian said they were from Dragon Sect, his heart was wrenched. Dragon Sect was the force that had annihilated the powerful remains, and this group of people before him was from the Dragon Sect. That young man was the Dragon King. Seeing experts charging towards him from all directions, he shouted in horror, "Dragon King, our Crimson Bug has no feud with you. Why do you have to annihilate us?" "Because I want to represent justice. Therefore, I'm annihilating all of you." Wang Xian answered in a nonchalant tone. The vice sect leader of Crimson Bug also threw up blood. Looking at the golden swordfish experts that were attacking him, he immediately fled without a moment of hesitation. "Run! Run immediately! Run!" The vice sect leader of Crimson Bug didn't hesitate at all as he shouted in horror. These terrifying existences had greatly exceeded his expectations. Didn't Dragon Sect only have 50 inborn experts? Isn't the Dragon King the only Dan realm expert in the Dragon Sect? How are there more than 150 inborn experts and 5 Dan realm experts here? What did Crimson Bug have to go against it? The roar from the vice sect leader of Crimson Bug reverberated across Huashan. Even if one was standing several tens of kilometers away, he would be able to hear it clearly. Ancient spiritual sword slash. At this moment, a ray of golden light glowed dazzlingly and illuminated the sky. Rumble. A 10-meter-long golden ray slashed towards the vice sect leader of the Crimson Bug. What? Seeing the golden sword ray approaching him, the vice sect leader of Crimson Bug was flabbergasted. Return of the spiritual sword. At this moment, an emotionless voice resounded and another long golden ray of a sword edge flew over. However, this ray of golden light came from directly before him. One from the front and one from the back. Ancient spiritual sword slash. The golden swordfish race resembled sword celestials. As they swung their blades, thousands of creatures were killed instantly. Arg! At this moment, a wretched cry reverberated throughout the sky of Huashan. The path of sword techniques was widely regarded as the strongest path of killing. An attacking sword celestial was the strongest in the world. Due to their gifts, the golden swordfish race had sharp swords from birth. After practicing the ancient spiritual sword technique and training in the dragon field, their sword techniques could triumph over the world. The terrifying sword of killing was even sharper than the attacks from the Dragonians. Crimson Bug only had 20-odd inborn experts. There was no way they could withstand a wave of attacks from more than 150 inborn experts. As for those who weren't even at the inborn realm, their state was even more brutal. After the sword of killing and terrifying devilish aura swept across, less than 5 people were alive. When the vice sect leader of the Crimson Bug saw this, his vision darkened. 2 sword edges slashed across his body. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.